Once again. It's nice that live works now all the time consistently, and we're just waiting for Amazon to get the stream, and we'll hit the live button over there. So it is Prime Day, everybody, in case you were not aware of the fact that it's Prime Day. And what we're going to be looking at today is we're going to do an unboxing of this computer. This is a Acer Spin 5, which is on sale today. This is an i7 with the G7 graphics, and it's a good deal, I think, for what it is. It's not an AMD. I know a lot of you, including myself, love the AMD, but these Intels are good. If you like Intel, good deal, right? So we're going to be unboxing this in a second and get into that whole rigmarole. And we got some folks popping in already. So T-Dub is here, and we've got Anthony Biacco. So yeah, we're going to get started in a minute. I think what I might do is maybe pull up, maybe I'll do a little how-to on Prime Day. Might be kind of fun. By the way, if you are watching live, if you click the link in the video description, you can watch this on Amazon. This is the deal of the day. And I'm not trying to be like a home shopping club thing. We're not doing that. We're going to unbox this. Let me get the knife going. I haven't even looked at this yet. So we're going to unbox this and do a evaluation. So I'm not shooting the review today, but we are going to capture some B-roll. We're going to play some games on it. We're going to do all sorts of fun stuff. So that is what the plan is. So we have a bunch of people popping in. I forgot to add my little social overlay thing. Let me add that real quick. So go to my title and go to social and add my little YouTube thing that I've been playing with. Where did it go? There it is. So we'll pull that up and I can start sending some stuff around. So Andy G is asking, is this a notebook? This is actually a 2-in-1. And we're going to start testing it. It's got the i7. Right now, it's $899. For an i7, I think that's a good deal. So we'll see what happens. Anthony Biacco says I would do well on one of those home shopping channels because they keep moving things around. Yeah, we're going to do the, the movement, right? It's all about the movement. Recipe Bob is on vacation. He's in Gatlinburg. So yeah, Andy G, it's $8.99 right now on Amazon. So click the link in the video description. It'll take you right over to Amazon. And while you're there, it would be great for you to all follow me on Amazon. That will help out a lot. I'm trying to build up my follower base on Amazon. So we're going to just create a new folder here on my recording. Unboxing and B-roll. So we're going to do an unboxing video first. So I am going to record one video, which will be the unboxing. But the rest of it will be just kind of streamed out here. And so far, my new connection has been working great. So it is good stuff. DC147 is here. T-Dub is here. Brian Crunchington is here. Yeah, I forgot we get people from all over the world here. So not all of you can take advantage of the deal. But if you're in the US, this is a Prime Day special. And they sent this to me ahead of Prime Day so I could have something to talk about on Prime Day. So here we are. Okay, so let me get the unboxing shot, and then we'll set it up, do everything, okay? All right, this is the Spin 5, and this one is configured with the i7 1065G7. We've looked at a bunch of these. Here's an odd thing, 13.5, 2256 by 1504. That's an interesting resolution. What is that? Is that like 1440p? It's probably just, yeah, I'm guessing it's the aspect ratio of the screen throwing it off there. So that's where we're going to go from there. Brian Parker is here. Hello, Brian. Good to see you. Hopefully you found a new home for that Mac. Let me know. GameRex has this laptop already. So it's good stuff. And Cedar Lake picked up oh, that's a good deal, DS920 Plus for 110 bucks off. That is a heck of a deal for the Synology stuff. Maybe we'll do a little stream on that tomorrow. DC147, yeah, I always mention it. Well, you know what it is that people ask me if I got it yet. So I always like to remind everybody, yep, we got it. It's working. And it's been great. And like last night, so again, I kind of pick up an hour or so of productive time, because I used to have to like finish by 4 o'clock to get all the videos uploaded in time for the evening. And now I can finish an hour later and still get them up. I kid you not, I timed it last night. So the wrap-up video typically took about 45 minutes to an hour to upload. 45 seconds last night. Done. So that is, it's good stuff. All right, Dwayne Clark is here from Australia. Mike Carrington is here. Matt Kuba says it's a 3:2 aspect ratio, which is good. I like that. I'm glad they did that here. We'll take a look and see exactly how it looks when we unbox it. So let's record the unboxing, and then we'll get into all the other stuff. I just want to see how many other people are streaming on Amazon right now. I would imagine this is like a busy day for Amazon live streaming. Let's see. Let's go on Amazon's live stream page here. So, oh yeah, they've got a bunch of people up there. I'm not even on like the front, the top of the list here. Well, actually I am. There I am. Here, I'll show you what I'm looking at here. Let's pull that up. So if you haven't been on Amazon, they've got a great live streaming system. And here, I'll show it to you real quick. Let me just close out a couple of tabs here. My little computer is getting worked too hard. So I will pull up this one here. And yeah, so this is the Amazon streaming page. Isn't this great? So they actually use vMix just like I do. But so they have like their own production. So you know it's theirs when you see the Amazon Live in the upper left-hand corner. And then there's a bunch of other folks. So some of these are brands that do live streaming. And then I'm right here. And what I would love for you to do, if you're watching live right now, is to click on the follow right here. See how it says I'm following? So I'm following myself. So if you follow me, then you can get notified whenever I pop on, because I'm going to get like deals on stuff. And when this is running, you get to go on and get the deal. That's how it works. So, and you can get to this on the link in the video description if you're watching on YouTube. So there you go. Okay, so let's get to work and see how it goes. And I will never resist an opportunity to talk about my fiber drop. So Jeremy Hopp says the fiber drop sure makes things look sharp. Yeah, so we were streaming at 720p before, now we're at 1080p. So that's a big jump. And it also is working more reliably, and I've been able to up the bit rate. So that is, that's how it works. Okay, so let me get rid of this stuff here. Angela Motley says this is a weird stream. This is a very weird stream. Everything I do is not normal, because I sit in my basement all day and talk about tech. It's kind of a fun job. That is definitely a weird profession, but I am quite happy with it. It's worked out great for me. Okay, so let's get going on the unboxing, and then what we'll do is start playing with this thing. So this is a good deal. Even though I haven't looked at it yet, I think the price is right. We'll see if it holds up performance-wise. So we're going to do the unboxing, which is a recorded video, and then we'll get into the rest of it. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's time for another unboxing. And today we got in the Acer Spin 5, and I am unboxing this live on a live stream because today is Prime Day, and this was one of the Prime Day deals, and Acer let us borrow this Spin 5, which is their deal of the day, to take a look at. So we're going to unbox it now and then do a full review on my main channel. This is the return label for when I'm done with it. And you can get the full scoop on exactly what this laptop is all about. So this is the power adapter. It looks like we've got probably your standard 65-watt adapter. And it looks as though it is a barrel connector and not a USB-C connector. And then we'll get into the laptop itself. Now this is an i7 1065 G7. So this has the faster Iris graphics, and it has a 3:2 aspect ratio display, and the resolution of it is 2256 by 1504. So it's a little more square, which is good. I like that aspect ratio. And as you can see here, the laptop does appear more square than wide, and I like that a lot. This is a 2-in-1, by the way. That's why they call it a Spin. And again, this is on loan from Acer, so when we're done with this, it goes back to them. and all of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. They are not paying for this unboxing, nor are they reviewing it or approving it before it gets uploaded. So there you go. I kind of like this. I like the square screens. You know why? Because when I'm doing web browsing and work, it's easier to get the document fit on the page there. So there you go there. Let's take a look at the overhead view and see the keyboard. Kind of your standard Acer keyboard. The keys I've never been totally crazy about on the Acer side. They tend to be a little smaller than some of the other manufacturers, but they've been improving over the years. So nice keyboard there. You've got a fingerprint reader integrated into the trackpad, and we'll boot it up here while we're going through some of the hardware. There looks to be a lot of ports on here too. The keyboard is backlit. And let's take a look at the ports that we've got. Oh, this is nice. We've got two Thunderbolt 3 ports up here, and we'll check and see if these are full service ports. I'm pretty sure they are. So you could get display out, video out through that display, obviously, power in, and data back and forth. And again, you got two Thunderbolt 3 ports. That's great, actually, on a laptop at this price point, or 2-in-1. HDMI out. You have a full-size USB 3 right here, micro SD card slot there. This one has 16 gigs of RAM, by the way, and it's got 512 gigabytes of NVMe storage. We have a headphone microphone jack there, USB 3, power switch, and then they've got a pen integrated here too, with a built-in little garage here that you can use to get the pen out. So we'll be testing the pen when we do the full review. So lots to see here. It's pretty lightweight also. It feels like it's made out of metal, so the build quality feels pretty good. At least this top part is metal. I think the bottom might be plastic. And all in, it looks pretty sharp. That flicker is just because of the interface with my camera. We'll get that straightened out for the full review. It's not flickering here on screen with me. And yeah, we've got some work to do now to test this thing and see what it's all about. So stay tuned, more to come. And that's going to do it for this unboxing. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. Okay, should we take it apart and see what's inside? What I sometimes do first before I take something apart is see if Notebook Check has done a review of it, because Notebook Check often will take them apart ahead of time, and that'll save us some time. So let me take a look here and see if they have that. And I just got to figure out getting the camera adjusted, because it looks like that flicker is going to be really annoying for the viewers. So if I turn the brightness up, sometimes, yeah, that rectifies it. So we might just have to adjust the camera down. Display looks nice and bright. So, you know, gamers might struggle a little bit with this because of its odd size. A lot of games will, you know, obviously run in a more square aspect ratio, but the developers were anticipating a more square kind of approach to it. All right, this is it here. So I'm just checking the, but this is actually a very unique computer. We looked at an HP Chromebook recently that had a similar aspect ratio display. And let me just take a look here. I'm just looking through Notebook Check to see if they took it apart. And they're usually pretty thorough. Yeah, so here is the Notebook Check. Oh, it looks like it might have. Let's take a look. Yeah, it does not appear as though the RAM is upgradable. I think it's soldered on. You can change out the SSD. But it looks as though, yeah, I don't think you got a RAM module there. So that is, that's what it is. Good stuff. Okay, so first thing we're going to check is to see if these Thunderbolt ports can actually charge the computer. So I'm going to grab this cable out here and just plug it in. And let's see what it looks like. So I just plugged it in, and it's getting power. So it is getting power out of that port. Let's try the other one. And yep, so you can, and actually I kind of like this, that they did this, because what happens a lot of times with these laptops is that you often, if you have like on the Mac, you have 4 Thunderbolt ports, but you're giving one of them up for power. Here you've got the barrel connector, which is separate from the 2 Thunderbolts. But both of these are doing power in, and I'm pretty sure the Thunderbolt spec requires video out. I'll test that before we get going there. So yeah, so that's that. I'm going to plug it into its own power adapter though, because I need to keep my Mac that is running the chat screen going, and I'll get that flicker taken care of too. It doesn't look too bad now. I'm not seeing it on my screen here, but I might just check the stream and see. And what happens with the flicker is that sometimes the refresh rate of the display just happens to just be, they're never like exactly 60 hertz or whatever, so sometimes it will interfere with the camera. And my cameras are, their shutter rate is 30, but if it becomes a real problem, I will adjust my camera shutter rate. This will make things look a little less smooth on camera here. And we can zoom in a little bit, have a closer look at it. Now, I think what we'll do first here is maybe run a couple of benchmarks on it. And what I've got, and I'll pull this up for you. I've got my little 1 terabyte drive here. And what you can do with these is you can load up Steam games on them and then just take the drive around. So we don't have to download 100 gigabytes worth of stuff to do all of our testing. So what I'm going to do first is just grab Steam and get that installed. And actually what also I'm going to do is we are going to uninstall, let me get a couple things set up here. I want to uninstall the Norton antivirus on here, so let me do that real quick. One of my only gripe with these Acer computers is that you get all this stuff on here, right? So we've got, ExpressVPN, Forge of Empires, you got Norton antivirus. One of the issues you run into with these lower cost devices is they tend to load up some bloatware on them. You have, an Amazon link down here, Dropbox, Firefox is pre-installed. So, to some degree there's a subsidy in the fact that this machine might cost less than a competing machine, but you're getting, software that's paid to be there put on it. So that is what we're seeing there. Eric Contreras is asking, while I get some things set up here, have I ever considered a colorimeter? Yeah, I don't get into the weeds on this stuff too heavily as far as that level of detail. This is more of a consumer channel, so the people that typically watch my videos are not looking for high-end color benchmarking and that sort of thing. But that's why I like to point people at notebookcheck.net, because they do crazy amounts of detail on their reviews, and that's something I would definitely check out. All right, we're going to get this on the network, and then I've got to install Steam on it. So I have a couple of benchmarks that I like to run on these at the outset. We also need to get Norton antivirus out of there. So one of the things that I like to do is kind of get the system to a fairly pristine place. And antivirus software tends to add some bloat to the mix. It takes up memory, it uses processing cycles, and I have been of the opinion that good practices, in other words, being careful as to what you click on, is better than having all this stuff running in the background. Additionally, Microsoft has its own antivirus. So as you can see here, we're uninstalling Norton, and then if I go over to Windows Security here, we can just make sure that we're set up for the Microsoft thing here. So let's just double check that. So what's happening now is it's just making sure that it's got all of its latest updates. I might just plug this into my network and get a little faster speed out of it. And we just gotta wait for that to uninstall real quick. And we'll let that go. Prince wants to know, is this live? Of course, we're live, happening right in this minute. I recorded a video, which is why I had like an outro, but yes, we are totally live. All right, so that's done. We're gonna need to restart real quick. And if you're curious as to how fast it boots up, you'll find out here. And by the way, this is a 2-in-1, so you can flip the screen around. So it's a full, it can be a tablet, it can be a laptop. The only thing that gets me about these 2-in-1s is the location of the speakers. So when it's a laptop, the speaker is kind of ideally positioned, or the speakers, because they are upward firing in this instance. You can see the speaker grill on the top. And when the computer is in this display mode, now your speaker is firing into the table there. Although it looks like, I may take that back because there are two speakers here. So I wonder if it switches from one to the other. We'll have to try that out and see, because that might be a neat addition. Okay. So we're rebooted. What I want to do first is just make sure that the Microsoft antivirus stuff is back in place here. So let's go and find that. Okay, so we are good to go. We can open up Windows Security just to be sure. I don't have this logged into my Microsoft account yet, so that's why that one's not activated. So yeah, so if you've got the built-in threat detection on these Windows computers, I think you're going to be fine. I really do. All right, so we have to do a couple of things here. I need to install Chrome. So, and the reason why is that we do a benchmark test for these laptops. And one of the things that I like to have is consistency when we do the benchmark tests. So what we're going to do is download Chrome and run that test a little later on Chrome versus Firefox, just because we run it on Chrome all the time. And you might like Firefox, I do, but more people use Chrome than Firefox. So that's another reason why I try to replicate the consumer experience as best I can. So we'll get that going. Madam in the Google chat is wondering how much memory does this have. So this has 16 gigs of RAM, which is not upgradable, but it's got 512 gigs of storage, which is upgradable if you want to take it apart. And it doesn't look that hard to get into it. It's just a couple of, well, more than a couple, a bunch of screws on the bottom, and you can pop it open and do your thing. But I think 16 gigs is good for a consumer laptop like this. And again, it's kind of unique with that square display there. All right, that's installed. Now, one other thing I'm going to point out here is that, I'll go to a website real quick so you can see what I'm about to do. So if I go to NASA, which is, I love visiting NASA because it's all in the public domain and I can't get hit with copyright violations for looking at pictures here. So you can see everything looks rather big. And the reason is that when they have these nice displays, let me turn my brightness on my camera down a little bit. When they have these bright displays, they tend to want to make things look sharper. And in the course of doing that, it's called screen scaling. And in the course of doing that, they make everything bigger. So you can't fit as much on the screen. So, and let's take a look at the NASA website here when I go there. Just make note of it, because everything's going to be larger. Now, if you have, poor eyesight, this would, be fine, right? So you can make these adjustments. But for me, my eyesight is going. I'm 43, it's hitting me. But for me, what I like to do is turn that off for a couple of reasons. One is that the games sometimes get messed up. And you can see right here that our scale is set to 200%. So if we go to 100%, everything gets a lot smaller. So maybe that may not be the most ideal for demoing. Let's try 150%. That might be a little better. Yeah, so that's a little better. So now we can fit more. So take a look now at this. And so you fit more. I just think it looks better for me. But you can adjust that scaling and make it work the way you want. So Mark Dell says, why not the Lynx browser? We should install the Lynx browser on there. I used to use Lynx back in the day. It was it. And actually, Matt Kuba says that 200% seems high. Yeah, I agree. I think 150% on this display is better. And I don't think any of these companies make these decisions in a vacuum. I don't think they're arbitrary. I bet you there's some focus groups that they look at and like who's buying this. And I think that's kind of the stuff that they look for there. Stephen Huxtable says, when did Amazon become YouTube? Well, I've been streaming on Amazon now for a while. I enjoy streaming on Amazon. It's a good platform for me because this is where this is where I think I fit in really well. So about 80% of my YouTube traffic comes from people who are not subscribed to me. They're just looking for information about products. So what I love about Amazon is that people are on Amazon looking for products, and that's where my reviews pop up. I have the recorded reviews on there. And then on the live stream side, as people are searching for stuff, if they jump onto this product page, they will see this live stream going on it right now. So what I'm going to do here is install Steam, and we'll click on Install. I got a question from Prince in the Amazon chat. Can you play PUBG on this? I think so. This is one of the areas where you're pushing the limits because this has the Intel Iris graphics. We're going to run some tests on it in a few minutes here. That's why I'm installing Steam. One of the issues with the Intel graphics is that the Intel machines are not as fast graphically or as powerful graphically as some of the latest AMD-based machines are. So this doesn't have a discrete GPU. But Intel's made some progress on the Iris graphics, and this one has the G7 graphics on board, so that's going to do better. But it won't be quite where the AMD chips are for less money. So that's what we're going to find out here now when we get Steam going on here. So I'm just going to log into my Steam accounts. Yeah, and the keyboard takes a little getting used to. I've never been a big fan of the Acer keyboards. I think their keys are too small. But we will be okay. And let me grab my Steam key and check that. And I also see there's some suggestions that we need to update some drivers here. So I'll check the driver support also. It's always good, especially for squeezing the most performance out of games, to get all the latest drivers installed. Okay, so I got to type in my code here from Steam, a little two-factor authentication. And here's the trick now with, all right, and then I just got a bunch of adware for Dropbox popping up. And again, this is the kind of stuff you deal with on there. So I'm going to go to my library here on Steam. Now you're going to see, well, it may be hard to see, but nothing's installed on here yet, right? But I've got this hard drive where last night I downloaded a bunch of games from Steam on, and what we're going to do is just plug it in. And this, by the way, is a SanDisk 1 terabyte Extreme drive here. I'm going to plug this in to one of the Thunderbolt ports. Now this is a USB-C drive, and if you watched my video on YouTube last night, you learned a whole bunch about USB-C. So this will work on the Thunderbolt port. It just won't work at Thunderbolt speeds. So this will do about 1 gigabyte of data transfer per second in both directions over Thunderbolt. But there are Thunderbolt drives that'll do 2 or 3 times what this one will do, just so you know. Kim B wants to know, is this a good laptop for doing YouTube videos? I think it will do okay for that. It's got the i7, so for video encoding it should do well. I have a MacBook Pro that I edit video on that's older and is fine with the i7. And there are some things where if you had faster graphics, it would matter for doing special effects and overlays and color correction and stuff. But if you're just doing the basics, I think this will do well for video editing. But you're going to want to have some external hard drives because you have 512 gigs built in, but you're going to fill that up super quick, especially if you're doing HD or 4K video. So I would suggest doing that. Okay, so now I've got the drive connected, and what I'm going to do is point Steam at a directory. So if you go over to Downloads on your settings, and there's an option for Steam library folders, I'm just going to select Drive D, and I have a Steam folder on there. And keep an eye on here. Once I do that, all these games just showed up. So there we go. And it looks like there might be some updates here, so let me see what's going on with those. Yeah, it's downloading a few updates. Well, that's interesting. It looks like I didn't download everything last night. So you know what I'm going to do real quick, just to speed this up? I have an Ethernet adapter, and I have now a much faster internet connection than I had a few weeks ago. I keep reminding everybody about how awesome my connection is. So we're going to just plug in this USB-C Ethernet adapter to get a little bit more download speed. So we're going to pop that in. And once that Ethernet gets detected, it has, I can now download this quicker. So we'll move that up to the top there and let's let that go. Yeah, so I've got now this fast gigabit connection, so these games should download a little bit quicker. But we do have the 3D mark thing going there, so we'll let that go. And we'll let this download. Yeah, so right now we're pulling about 30 megabytes per second. It's moving up. It's not quite gigabit yet. Let's see if it hits the 100 megabyte mark. Then we'll know we're going full blast here. 63 megabytes per second, 65. And by the way, that's the difference. If you've got a super fast internet connection, a lot of times the only way you can really make full use of it is to plug in an Ethernet adapter. And there's a lot of gigabit to USB-C Ethernet adapters out there. They're super inexpensive, and you will definitely see faster downloads and a more responsive network, especially if you have a lot of people in your house using the Wi-Fi and sharing it. And while that's going, let's check and see if there are driver updates for the Intel graphics. So I think Acer has like their own little utility here for checking for updates. So let's check that out. Agree to whatever they're... Oh, great, never mind. This is probably more bloatware that they're trying to push on me. Yeah, so here's even more. So this stuff is not installed, but you can have them install it if you want. We're going to skip that. Yeah, this is not what I thought it was. Okay, so let's move out of there. Let's go and check out Intel's website and grab those drivers. And I'm downloading the drivers just to be sure that I've got the best performance I'm going to see out of this. And we're going to go to Iris Plus, which is what this has. And there's a beta package from October. And I'm not sure if we want to do the beta of this. And Brian Parker has some comments here on, thank you for the super chat, Brian, as always. No PUBG, Among Us, or Fall Guys. It can do it, but you shouldn't play those games. Rocket League forever. Mark Dell says, why do you not? Yeah, so this is a good question from Mark Dell. You know what it is that Steam never makes full use of the connection. So you can see right now, like we're downloading Doom here, and we're only hitting about 68 megs per second. Like it kind of maxes out. So I like to store these on external media just to have them, just because it's a lot faster when we're getting set up for testing. And I'm going to have to do the same thing with GTA 5. I could, what happened was I left the computer on last night to download this stuff, this other one I had plugged in, and it just put itself to sleep apparently and never finished. So we'll have to come back to those. Mohammed suggests I'll check that out. The Acer Care Center is what we need to look for here. So let's take a look at that real quick and see what we get. So let's type in the Acer Care Center. And it looks like it's not on this computer. So I'm just going to download the Intel driver and install that real quick. And we'll do the non-beta one because I just want to make sure we have stability. And it's only a month off, so it's not a huge difference here. And this is going to overwrite the existing driver that's in there. But you can tell oftentimes like what driver you're running with if you don't see the Intel thing in the control panel here when you right click on the desktop. And we'll let that keep going. So it's a good opportunity. And this is, by the way, one of the things that we do all the time when we get set up is we spend some time just getting all the drivers installed, making sure things are up to date. And there we go. So let's open that up real quick. And hopefully this won't crash our computer. We'll find out, won't we? And I do have some things installed, so we'll be able to start with that. William Wilkinson wants to know, will Windows 10 come with the Acer gaming laptop that he ordered? Yes. Yep, all of them do now. Yeah, there was a time where you might get Windows 8 and then you could upgrade to 10, but of course now Windows 10's been out for quite a while, so you'll get that when it comes out. All right, so what's going on with this driver install? Did anything happen? All right, let's go back to our downloads and start that again. For some reason it just didn't, I might have missed the... There is a fan on this. I'm hearing it. It's not terribly loud. And one of the tests that I like to run on these machines is the 3D Mark stress test, which is a way to see if the computer can maintain a decent rate of performance under load. Okay, so it's going to install one or more device drivers. Hit next. And we might see the screen flicker a little bit when it does that. I do like the aspect ratio. I think I mentioned that already, but I'll mention it again. I do like the aspect ratio on this display. Well, Andre asked a good question about, because I guess today is the day they're doing the iPhone launch also. Will I be doing coverage of that? Probably not. Everybody else will be. That's one of the things that I've learned is I have a good spot here where I review things, and I found that covering this kind of stuff is better for me than covering iPhone releases. I will probably review the phone if I get it. I do have, and I can't do more than show it to you right now, but I do have the new Pixel 5 from Google, which we'll be reviewing at some point very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And let's see, we're still waiting for all these things. Yeah, I wish this, it kills me because I started this last night because I didn't want to sit here and download games while we were testing the laptop out, but it looks like my idea here to do that fell through the wayside there. Okay, so let's see, where are we at? Did the driver install? Because the setup program ended, and I don't know if the driver installed. That's the problem when we do these things live. The computer never behaves properly, so you never know what's going on. But let's take a look at the control panel here and see what, or the task manager, and see what is happening. Yes, I don't see anything related to that driver install going on. So it may have completed, so we'll reboot in a minute and see if that does it. What's also interesting for those of you computer nerds like me watching, Steam is using a lot of CPU right now as we're downloading the game. So I would imagine that we could probably be pulling more than we are at the moment. But I think whatever compression they're using, it's using about 100 and 200 and 300 megs of memory, 94% of the CPU, and it's pushing about 600 and something megabits per second over the network. So it's running everything super hard. And somebody mentioned to me that there's a lot of compression and decompression going on the fly, so it's basically downloading and decompressing at the same time. I answered this question already. I am not covering the Apple event today. We are focused on Prime Day. So we'll let this kind of finish up here. I might just do a reboot, though, and see if that driver went through. Usually when it's done, you'll get something here on the right-click menu to indicate that you've got the Intel graphics installed. But I didn't see the display flicker or anything like that. So we'll let that finish up there. Mark Doe makes a good point also. This might be great for classic games because the aspect ratio is square, right? It is a 3:2, so it is very close to what you'd have on an old TV. Maybe we should load up some emulation in a little bit too. And somebody asked about the Windows version. This has Windows version 2004. Build 19041.408. So we may need to update Windows also. Let's take a look and see if it's got an update on that. And that's one of the things I recommend people do when they get a new computer, is to do all of the updates and check for updates, because you want to get it all up and to the latest. Because what happens is that these factories make the computers, they put it in a box, and it might sit in the warehouse at Amazon for months before you get it. So there could be, like for example here, there's a security update, there's a Realtek USB driver update. Just a lot of stuff that might fix some bug that was out there initially when it first released. So, doing these updates really helps. And most of the time, generally, you don't have to worry about rebooting. Sometimes you do. As you can see, we just put in a bunch of updates here and it didn't require any restart. And we'll go to the device manager real quick and see what version of the display driver we have. Device manager. Display adapters. I gotta go down one more level. Yeah, the date is still March, and I think the one I downloaded was later than that. Let's take a look here. Yeah, so this is 7985 and this is 8783. So let's reinstall it again and see if it takes on the next go around. If not, we'll just reboot and see if it takes it on the reboot. Yeah, it's very finicky on those drivers. Let's do a reboot and just see what happens. Mark Dell says he bets this can do the Dreamcast. Oh, certainly. I think it could definitely do that. No question. And you'll see it boots up pretty quick, and that's because it's got the NVMe, because you've got the kind of the top end i7 in here. So you'll get in super quick. Now there's no password on this, just because this is a review unit, a review loaner that they sent to us. So there you go. Okay, so let's go back and see what version of the driver we're running at here. Yeah, we're still at 7985, so let's see if we can force that to install again. There we go. Looks like it's doing something now. When in doubt, reboot. That's what I used to say at my old job. And this is always what you run into when you review a computer live. When you take it out of the box, you got to go through all this rigmarole. And for those of you watching, what I'm doing is I'm updating the Intel graphics driver. A lot of times this gives you a little more performance, because Intel will update the graphics drivers separately from Acer. Sometimes it makes the computer run better. Other times it makes the computer run less better. Mohammed's asking about the stylus, and yeah, we'll definitely check that out. Stress-free Living asks, am I recommending this 2-in-1? I would say, I haven't gone through my entire testing with it. So here's what I will say based on the price, what it has inside, and my experience with Acer. I would say that this is a good price for what it is. Here's why. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, which is good for multitasking, multiple browser tabs, that sort of thing. It's got the i7 processor, which is kind of the top of the heap of the Intel chip line. On top of that, it has the G7 graphics on board. So while it's not going to be a gaming laptop per se, you can run a lot of popular games at low graphics settings. So Minecraft, all that kind of stuff will run fine on it. It looks like we got that display driver installed now. So there will be things that I think this is a good value for. And now it's asking me to set the graphics up again, seriously? So that's good. What I don't like so far is that there appears to be a lot of bloatware on this, so that when you load it up, there's and antivirus everybody installs, but there's like a bunch of icons in places that you don't necessarily want. There's apps being asked to be installed. I've got stuff on my start menu here that was recently added, so there's software installed on here that you may not want. I got booking.com in the task menu, so you might have to spend a little bit of time when you first get it to get it worked out. And the other thing that I think is unique about this is that, and by the way, this will double as a tablet. I just have all this stuff plugged into it, but you can flip the display completely around. The other thing that I like about it is that the aspect ratio of the display is more square. And this is kind of more of a retro look, but look around my midlife crisis behind me. It's better for document editing than a wider screen laptop. The one issue you'll run into with this, and let me pull up a YouTube video here. What'll happen though when you're watching something? So here, why don't we pull up our live video as it's going here, and I go full screen. You're going to have black bars above and below because this video is 16 by 9. By the way, we're watching what I'm doing live. Isn't that wild? This video is 16 by 9. But this display is 3 by 2. So you're going to have, when you're watching Netflix and stuff, it may not be ideal for people that play a lot of video because you're going to have those bars up there. And depending on the video, like some of the 4K stuff might have a little less, or things that were shot in the Ultra HD aspect ratio, which is a little bit taller. Generally, it's going to look like this. Now, if you're watching an old TV show, if I'm watching Star Trek on here, I can't show it to you because it's copyrighted, of course, then it would fill the screen. So there's older stuff will look better. Newer stuff like this, there'll be bars on the screen. Just be aware of that. All right. I don't think this driver is going in, folks. Let me double check the device manager again. And let's take a look. So if I go to display adapters, Intel Iris Plus graphics and properties, yeah, it's not taken. So we're going to run with it just with what it's got installed. And what I will do is double check after we're done with the stream today before I post the final video. We'll just double check and make sure that it's capable of all that. And Doom is almost done, so I'm going to let this finish installing, and then we're going to run some benchmarks on it. Because I'm always curious to see exactly where this ends up. So Eric Contreras asks about the GPD Win Max, the same chipset. Yeah, this is like Intel's answer to AMD's graphics performance, really. It's a Intel chip with graphics that are usable, if that's the best way I can describe it. Because what we've found in the past, let me get my gaming mouse out here. We found in the past is that a lot of these Intel graphics were not up to par. Like you couldn't play a game on it. You could certainly do video editing and stuff because they had a lot of optimizations for video processing, but not for gaming. So what they did here is let's get a mouse real quick. They integrated some better graphics. And let me grab my mouse wherever it went. I started organizing everything, and now I don't know where anything is. All right, here's the mouse. So Carlos wants to know, can I play LOL on this? I am not sure what LOL is. Now what I am going to do here is I'm going to plug, because there's no, is there a USB port? Oh, there is one. Okay, so I'm going to plug the mouse into the USB port on the side here. I'm very happy with the port selection on this, because you've got 2 Thunderbolts and you've got a full-size USB on both sides. So that is good. So we'll plug that in. And we're just waiting for Doom to finish up. So you know what we'll do is we'll do a quick Doom session here and see how it runs with that. So what I'm happy about are the ports. 2 Thunderbolts, you've got 2 USBs, you've got HDMI out, another full-size USB over there. So it's good. And the Thunderbolt ports, what's cool about those is let's say your space is constrained or limited. Okay, so you could buy this. Let me go get what I'm talking about real quick. You could buy the laptop, and then if you wanted to, this is getting crazy into the weeds here, but let's see if this thing's plugged in. It is, but I'll unplug it real quick. Okay. So you could get that laptop, and you could be happy with your Intel graphics, but you could get something like this to hook up to it. Now this is an external GPU, and you can buy these cases. This one is from a company called Akitio, but they were acquired recently by Otherworld Computing. And this thing will plug in. So look on the back of this thing. You get all this stuff, and it's just got a single Thunderbolt, where is it? Right there, Thunderbolt 3 connector. So what you do, and you can't do this with USB-C, even though it's the same port, you got to have the Thunderbolt here. See that Thunderbolt? You plug this with a Thunderbolt cable into that, and now you've got a desktop gaming computer. So it's going to use the laptop's CPU, which, by the way, is a nice, quick, zippy CPU. And I'm not going to take it apart at the moment, but I've got a GPU in here, and we use this with my Mac Mini over there for speeding up some of the video editing if we ever do anything fancy. Not that we do. This gives us a little boost of performance on our Mac Mini, and these things are. The enclosures are not terribly expensive, but of course the GPU that you might buy will be. But I've run like GTX 1070s and 1080s in these things, and once you plug it in, you can basically dock your computer to the graphics card, and it'll run a lot quicker. Okay, so Doom is installed, so let's give this a go. And let's see how it runs. We'll take a look at some games first. And I don't know what's going to happen with this aspect ratio, so this is one of those things for gamers that I'll defer to the chat room on. League of Legends is what Carlos is asking. Yes, this could play League of Legends. And I think, for the most part, everything you'll want to put on low settings. And so we're going to launch Doom. So again, the issue here is going to be with the 3x2 screen, and we'll see what Doom does by default here. I don't know if it's going to fill the screen or leave us with some letterboxing. We'll find out. And I don't expect this to run very well, by the way. But let's see what happens. Now the movie's playing with some letterboxing, but we'll see what the actual thing looks like. Mark Dell wants to know, could I put a 3080 in that case? I probably could. I'd have to check and see. I don't think I will ever get a 3080 until next year. They're hard to find. All I want is No Man's Sky to run better in VR. Whatever card can do that for me, I'll gladly purchase. Okay, so I was not sure how this would boot up. So here we've got the game letterboxed, and that's kind of what you're going to run into. So let's go into, let's just go into the campaign mode here. And I always usually just try it out in arcade mode. And we'll adjust the settings here in a minute. But as you can see, like the game's struggling because it's not quite struggling. It's not sure what to do with the display. And that's because a lot of these games are basically developed by programmers who expect there to be a widescreen display, because that's what most people have. Most people don't have a square display unless they're on a Mac. And the Macs are a little bit wider than this. So let's take a look here and see how it runs. This is just like having it detect everything automatically, and then I'll tweak it a little bit more. And I like to run this version of Doom because I've always found this one to be relatively forgiving of low-powered machines. So as you can see right now, we're about 20 frames per second out of the gate. But I want to check the settings here to see exactly what it's doing. So we're going to go over to video. Okay, so we're full screen. Now, I do want to check and see if we're on Vulkan. So what it's doing right now is running at 1080p, which is a 16 by 9. And let's go over to advanced. And right now it's on OpenGL, and everyone tells me that you're supposed to run this on Vulkan. So we're going to switch to Vulkan, and that's going to require a reboot. And we're also going to turn everything down to low. So we're just going to go off basic low settings here. And then we're going to go back, and we're going to have to restart Doom. And I think we'll see it run a little better now that we turn the settings down. And then we'll have to play around with the aspect ratio. Jeremy's asking in the chat about what graphics settings. I would typically, as you just saw, high settings here was like 20 frames per second at 1080p. So generally, and this has been, and I've reviewed a bunch of these, bunch of computers with this chip inside of it. Typically, this chip wants to be run at low settings, at 1080p. You can get better settings if you go to 720p, but of course you're trading resolution for graphical quality, so it's always like a hit or miss kind of thing. So let's go back to the campaign and do the arcade mode again, and we'll do the UAC. Andre wants to know, aren't I at all curious about the iPhone? I am curious about it, but I will learn more about the iPhone when they announce it, because I'm not going to be able to get one early anyhow. So if I think it's going to be worthwhile to purchase, then I'll get one, and we'll review it when everybody else gets one too. So I'll definitely check up on it in a little while. Question on the Amazon chat about RAM. Is it soldered? Yes, this is soldered RAM, but it's got 16 gigs. So now we're running, again, this is low settings. I'm just going to hit my record button here just so that I can get some B-roll shot. And we're doing about 30 FPS here, 36, kind of mid-30s. And this is actually normal for this chipset at 1080p. And you'll see here when I start playing around with resolution, if we turn it down to 720p, you'll see it do a little better. And I'm not playing the game very well. I'm just trying to get an idea of frame rate moving around. And this is about what I see typically on these G7 chips. Now, if you had the AMD processor in a computer of this size and sometimes lower money, you might do a little better. But this is what you can expect. So that's test one. And let me stop recording real quick, and I'm going to start my Google Doc for this also. And let's go over to my Google Docs here, and we're going to just start a new note thing here. All right, so now what I want to do is take a second look at settings. So we'll jump back into that level we were just in. And this is what usually Jake does for me on the channel here. He's my producer extraordinaire. So now let's take a look and see what other ways we can tweak this. So we could reduce the resolution to 720p. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I'm not seeing any other aspect ratio other than 16:9, which means that, let's see if we can change it here. Oops. Okay, we can do that. Okay, so I think this is 3:2. Let's try 720p first, and then we'll go from there, because some people might want to connect this to an external display. So we're going to reduce the resolution to 720p. And now, if we resume, check it out. We're almost at 60. And you certainly, though, will see a decline in graphical performance. Let's record this now. But if you want to stay closer north of 60 frames per second, that's how you're going to do it, 720p. See that? So just produce a reduction in resolution for this game is what you're going to want to do. So there you go. Okay, so now, and give me a second here, it's got to log 2 clips on this one, Slim 7, this is the Spin 5. Hang on. Last night I reviewed the Slim 7. This is the Spin 5. Got to get them right. So this is the unboxing. And then we have Doom 1080p. Whoops. And then we've got Doom at 720p. Okay. So there you go. And I'll keep taking questions as we go here. And yeah, Andy Hooten makes a awesome, I'm going to talk about my connection as much as I can. As he says, 1080p is like less than 1%. That's correct. I have 2,000 megabits upstream, and I'm only using 12 right now for 2 different services. Jeremy wants to know, what about gaming and streaming and having Discord running in the background? I think you're starting to push your luck with that. I mean, this is not a gaming machine. It's going to be able to play games, but if you're looking for, if you're looking to live stream and run Discord and run OBS and do all this stuff off of a single computer, you're pushing your luck on something like this. This is really, these things never played games. This class of computer was never a gaming computer until recently. And Intel's put in just enough horsepower to make these games somewhat playable, but not completely playable. All right, so what we're going to do now, because Doom does have a setting here for the native aspect ratio, the 3:2. So we're going to run it at its native aspect ratio now. And I suspect that this is going to run lousy because it's a much higher resolution than we were just running the game at. But let's see what happens. So let's resume. And yeah, we're running like at 20. But you can see now it fills the screen. So this game at least will have that. But check it out, like the clock here is, so you see what I mean? Like they did not design this game to run square. So it will conform itself to that, but it won't be ideal. So let's go back to video again. And that resolution wasn't cutting it, but that's the only one it lets us choose at 3:2. It's just the native resolution of the display. Now we could try to go to 4:3, and let's run it at 1280 by 960, and let's see what that looks like. Here's a question from TSTS. How is it rendering video at 1080p or 4K? Would you consider it a good portable video production? I would consider this good for light editing. And what I would consider light editing would be the kind of editing that I do here on the channel. So, by the way, this is 4:3, so you can see there's now letterboxing on the left and the right. So what I do for my video editing is I shoot most of it live to disk. So most of what I do recorded is actually the same that I'm doing here live. I just record what I'm doing and put it on the disk. So I'm stringing 1080p clips together most of the time. So if you are just editing, just adjusting existing clips and not doing a lot of heavy color correction or After Effects or that kind of thing, then this will be fine for that. It's just when you get into the more demanding things that, like color correction, like compositing and multiple video things going on at the same time, at that point, what I would suggest is, like if you're really doing some hardcore video production, what I would suggest you look at is a low-cost gaming laptop. Acer makes them. Other companies make them. Lenovo makes them. So like the Lenovo Legion 5 or one of the lower-cost Acer Predators, if you get something that's got a discrete GPU, an NVIDIA or an AMD GPU, so you got your CPU, the Intel or the AMD processor, and then you have something that has a GPU, that combo is better for the higher-end video editing. So for the editing that I do, which is just stringing clips together, this is fine. But again, if you're doing more than that, that's where you're going to want to go a little higher end. Now let's see what did get installed last night when I was doing stuff, because I did try to install The Witcher 3, which didn't make it over either. What the heck's going on with this thing? So we're going to let that go in. Let's finish up Grand Theft Auto real quick then. Actually, you know what we're going to do real quick? Let's run a benchmark, because I did install the 3D Mark benchmark last night, because I saw that go in. Did that make it? It did not. What is going on here? So this will install a lot quicker. So let's grab that real quick and we'll run that. And we'll run a benchmark on it. So I think that from the video editing perspective, that's what I would look at with this. Mark Dell's asking, could you change the render resolution? Yeah, you could do that. So you could run it at, I don't know about Doom, but I know like Fortnite does that, where if you put it on low settings, it's rendering out a lower resolution, but having it upscaled to the 1080p. That would work, but it wouldn't look any better. My cat food wants to know, this is on sale. This is one of the Prime Day specials, which is why we're streaming my evaluative process this morning. If you click the Amazon link down below, it'll take you right over to Amazon. And I would love for you all to follow me there, because I'm trying to build up my Amazon presence. Rare does one get the opportunity to launch on a new platform that a lot of people are into. And so I am doing a lot on Amazon, both recorded and live, so it'd be great to get a larger following there. I only have like 1,000 followers there, so I think we could do better. So if you click on the link and then mouse over the video, you'll be able to see that. But to answer the question, the price point on this is $8.99 at the moment. And it's a $200 discount today. And it's not bad. Again, my only complaint so far is that and it's not a deal breaker, but I think you're going to spend a little bit of time clearing out some of the junk that they put on here. And it's not like the old days of bloatware where stuff was like rootkitted and everything, but there's apps that are just not necessary that are on it. And we're just going to run these 3D Mark benchmarks real quick. Sam Adams is asking, did I get impacted by the Comcast outage earlier today? I don't think so. I did notice that like this morning my email was like a little sluggish, so I just chalked it up to the usual glitches, but I did not notice anything after that. And the stream, I've been streaming since, I've been going for about an hour now, I think. Yeah, we've been going about an hour, so I didn't see any issues on the stream this morning. But I am like, basically my new connection is just tied into, oops, something just fell down over there. My new connection is basically like plugged into the data center locally here. So if there's an outage, I'm going to feel it for sure. All right, so we're going to run the 3D Mark benchmark, and then we'll try a few other games on it. Roop90 asks about display quality. I think it's good. This is a 3x2 display. It's IPS. It looks good. One of the things about the Acer displays is that they have always put for the price that they sell these things at, they always put really nice displays into them. And this one looks nice. It's nice and bright. I don't have the exact nits available. I will check and see if they sent me a reviewer's guide, because oftentimes they will include that information there. But the display was not offending to me. It was not offensive. So if the display doesn't offend me, I think we're okay. And by the way, my lights are flickering here. Hopefully the lights don't go out. The good news is that I have a generator, and I'm told that my new connection, because it's like linked up directly to the Comcast head end where they've got a lot of backup power, we should be in good shape. Now I'm going to run, this is like looking for trouble, but I am going to, actually let's do the CloudGate test first, and then we'll do the other one. So the first thing we're going to do is, the reason why I like to run the CloudGate test is that we've been running this test for the last 5 or 6 years on every computer that we've reviewed. And although they don't support it anymore, I think it's still good to get an apples to apples comparison, and you can get some good idea of progress. Jeremy wants to know, can you upgrade the SSD on this machine? Yes, you can do that. So the SSD is it's just your standard NVMe. So you can get at that. Notebookcheck.net has a teardown image here. And if you go to their website and just search for Spin 5, you will see it. And I'll give a zoom in here so you can see what the inside looks like. So that's what it looks like inside. Notebookcheck.net. And that's where the NVMe goes right here. But there's only one slot. Stress-Free Living is asking about ports. Yeah, we did cover those a little bit earlier. You've got 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which I think is great. You have an HDMI output, a full-size HDMI output, and the power connector is its own barrel plug, so you don't have to occupy one of the Thunderbolt ports with that. But you can power it through those USB ports. So you've got 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports over here. You've got a USB port right here, HDMI here, power there, and then on the other side you've got a headphone jack, a Kensington lock, and another USB port. And the one on the right side is a USB 2 port based on its labeling. And there's a pen also, by the way, which we haven't gotten to yet. So the pen garages itself on the side, and it will charge from the laptop, and it just goes right into the side here. So we'll take a look at the pen in a minute too. We'll get this benchmark run. I just have so much stuff connected to the computer now. That's the one thing with a 2-in-1. When you've got all this stuff plugged in, it's hard to move it around and reconfigure it. Jeremy wants to know about Ethernet port. No Ethernet. So right now I have plugged Ethernet into mine with a little dongle here. So any USB-C gigabit Ethernet adapter will work. And we're just going to let that benchmark finish up, and we'll move on to some other stuff. And for those of you watching on Amazon, if there's anything specific you want to see, I know the YouTube audience might be a little different in its interests from the Amazon audience, so take a look. Gary is asking, does Amazon Live have a chat? They do, and I'm monitoring both. I just can't put it up like this so vMix doesn't support the Amazon chat yet, so I can't do this, but I can definitely answer chat questions. So what I see on my phone is this. And then they have this really cool product carousel down here. So I can select different products that I'm talking about, which I think is neat. And that's part of the Amazon live chat. Andre wants to know if I ever upgraded a CPU on a laptop. I haven't. I suppose you could desolder it and then find a compatible one and put it in, but they typically solder the CPUs onto the boards themselves. And just continuing the discussion about the video editing. So here's a great example of something that I think would do a little better on higher end video editing. So William, he was on our chat the other day also. He bought an Acer Nitro that has the NVIDIA 1650 GPU. And it's, this machine is good. It's not going to be, a $4,000 powerhouse, but for the cost, you'll get a lot done with that. And the GPU, especially again for doing some of the higher end video editing tasks like After Effects or whatever, a lot of color correction, a lot of the video editing applications will make use of the GPU to speed up rendering. And so that's where this machine might fall a little short, is on that stuff. So that's where you might want to look elsewhere. But if you're stringing clips together, doing some basic stuff, then this will be fine for that. And what I found in this business is that the thinner and lighter something is, the more it costs. So you'll find, like for example, I don't know what William paid for his laptop, but typically you can find a laptop like this for $700, $800, $900. It's crazy, like what you can get with hardware that is extremely powerful for certain tasks. But it's bigger, it's heavier, it's noisier, it's not as portable, the battery life isn't as good. So if you want thin, light, portable, nice display, battery life, you got to pay more. But you can get raw horsepower. And I often liken it to, here's how I would compare things. You could buy a Corvette and spend a lot of money on a flashy, beautiful Corvette, but you might be able to get the Camaro. And I don't know what they're like today, Camaro versus Corvette, but for a long time, like the Camaro had the Corvette engine in it, right? So it just wasn't as pretty. So that's kind of the thing. You can get the power if you want it. This thing seems like it's taking longer than usual, doesn't it? Did we lock up? I think we locked up. I think the benchmark locked up. We have to restart this. Yeah, we noticed some issues with like the video drivers and stuff on here, getting those things installed. Joseph is asking about Linux support. Yeah, we'll try to boot up Linux in a little bit. Typically, my experience so far with these G7s has been, or these i7s with the G7, is that they have been detected successfully on Ubuntu. So we have been able to get those things booted up, and that's definitely something we'll look at. And my mouse pointer is like completely gone. So I don't know if this is actually running and just not displaying something. I don't know, this is weird. So I think what we might do here is see if we can kill the task. I just don't have a mouse at the moment. There it is. So let's kill the workload here. I might just do another reboot. That's weird. We don't usually see this thing lock up the computer and take the mouse pointer away. That was very odd. Yeah, I think we might go for a reboot here. Oh, we're back. Oh, yeah, I'm going to reboot real quick. That was weird. We don't usually have the computer like do that. And this could be the result of the driver. And we tried to get the new Intel driver in, it wouldn't install. So I don't know if this is my point, like sometimes when you put the driver in, you screw it up. TS is asking about the speakers. We haven't tried the speakers yet, so maybe we'll do that now. I can't play any, I could do like some YouTube safe music maybe. Maybe we can try that real quick. So let me grab some YouTube music and play that real quick. Jeff is asking about the fan noise. I'm hearing the fan, and it isn't that bad. And we were playing a game with the speakers off, and it was not terribly loud. One thing that makes me a little nervous, though, is that when I don't hear a terribly loud fan, sometimes the computer will throttle a bit, right? So, but the fan noise has not been terrible on this so far. Let me just grab a song real quick, and we'll just, I'm just going to copy it to my NAS so we can listen to some audio out of the speakers. And I want to find a happy song. I'm just going to play it here on my... That's not a good song. Let's try this. I'm just looking for a song I can play on the other computer here. Let's see. Give me a minute. I want to find a good song that's got a good mix of a good range of sound. So not good on the. I'm looking through the YouTube stuff. YouTube's like very subdued this morning on its audio library. There we go. Let's grab this one. A little dramatic. Okay, we're gonna grab this song. I have to be very careful about the music that I play because when you're live streaming and you play anything copyrighted, you get a strike like almost immediately. It's really bad. And the high school in the next town over from me, they were getting ready to do their streaming graduation ceremony. I feel awful for them because they're doing a drive-up ceremony. They had to limit the attendance because of the pandemic stuff. Yes, that's still going on. And they had music playing out of a speaker, copyrighted music, and they got up for 30 seconds and immediately took it down. YouTube killed it. And then they came back up again. And I don't think they like completely get you on the first takedown, but they must have thought, oh, something got messed up, so they just started streaming again, and the song was still playing, and they were unable to stream the graduation. It was awful. So you got to be really careful about the music that you play on your streams. And I'm just going to grab the file and throw it on the desktop here. And 11:14 a.m. Yep, that's the right one. Although it's not 11:14, the computer's an hour behind. I think they come from Central Time, so it. And you know what I'm going to do too, while we're talking about this, is I'm going to actually eject my drives, because I'm curious as to what happens to the sound when we flip it around like that, and then we'll run those benchmarks again. So I'm just going to eject my drive, and to do that I have to close out Steam, which thankfully did not reload. And by the way, this is that Acer Care Center, so it is on here. All right, so we'll run that afterward. Okay, so let's eject the drive real quick. And we'll go to eject. Actually, it doesn't look like it wants to eject there, so we'll eject it over here. Oh boy, it's giving me a hard time. Yeah, but so far this is pretty good. I think it's, I'm just going to unplug the Ethernet here for a second. It's not bad. I like the aspect ratio on the display. Again, not going to be great for gamers because you lose a little bit of perhaps what the developers want you to see. Okay, so here's the music file. So let's play it here. And we'll just use the built-in Windows thing. And what I'm most curious about here is what happens when, yeah. Speaker quality, not so good. Yeah, I'm not digging the speaker quality. The speakers here on the top. Now the good news is it's like a song like this. I mean, it's pretty bad. And I'm trying to figure out like where the sound is coming out of, because you've got two speaker grills here on the left and right, but it's getting super muffled when it goes down into this mode. So I'm going to switch it into tablet mode real quick and see if if that changes the speaker orientation. I'll rewind a little bit here. Yeah, so I'm definitely hearing it coming out of the bottom here. So I think they might have done some passive thing here to try to get more sound coming out at you when it's in this mode. But it doesn't sound very good. It's not a very good range of sound. So I would not buy it for its speakers. But you could plug in headphones. It's got a headphone jack. You can do the, I got to get out of tablet mode real quick here. You can plug headphones into it. You can do Bluetooth speakers. You could do that kind of stuff. All right, so let's check now for any updates, because maybe there is a... And it doesn't look like they're going to give you the new driver. And you don't have an option for things that may not be critical either. All right, so let's plug the hard drive back in, and let's try to get that benchmark going again. By the way, if you're curious on ports, if you're tuning in late, 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, HDMI out, USB, SD card. And then you also have a USB 2 port here, headphone, and a Kensington lock, and the pen. So it's got the full package here. But yeah, the speakers are not good. And it's hard to, you know, one of the things that is difficult on a stream like this is to, or even on a recorded video, and I get this all the time, why don't you do an audio test for us? The problem is that what you're hearing when you do an audio check on a review is what's coming out of the speaker but coming into a microphone. Every microphone sounds different to begin with. And then the audio is getting compressed and pushed out, right? So some of you might be watching at 1080p. Some of you might be on a phone at 720p, and the audio might be getting compressed more than I'm even compressing sending out to you. You know what I mean? So you can't listen to an audio test on a video and know what it's going to sound like. It's just not possible to get it accurate. So you have to kind of rely on the reviewer to give you their sense of things. And that's tricky also because everyone's tastes are different. So, you know, what I'm listening for is kind of how I reacted to this. Like, ooh, like, you know a good speaker when you hear one. Mark Dell has a good point here. Like when it comes to like the iPad sounds great. It's got a good range of sound, good stereo separation. It just sounds good. I can't quantify what good is. I just know it when I hear it, and I've heard enough to say this is good and this isn't good. So I will say that the speakers on this one are not very good. And although they tried to get the audio piped out of those two slots, it's coming out of the bottom here, or the top here. So when you put it down into display mode, it's gonna muffle the sound out a bit. But all that said, if you are if you are listening to music or gaming or whatever, plug headphones in, it's going to sound fine. So that's it. Londog is asking, does it have Bluetooth? Yep, it definitely has Bluetooth. So you've got that as an option. And we're going to try to run that. We're going to try to run that benchmark again, and then we'll try a few other games. And then I have maybe an hour before I got to go pick up my daughter at school. So let me log back into my Steam account here. And we'll try to get that benchmark to finish up. Odd that it didn't run, right? So let's jump back and see what we get. But this is, I do think though, like on balance, for the price, I think for the price that it's selling at on sale today, I think it's a good deal. And the one word of caution I will have for people watching is that if you have a widescreen display laptop now, this is very different because it is a 3:2 more square. And again, I think there's some real advantages to this aspect ratio, especially when you're working on documents and stuff. And I'll show this again. you're going to get letterboxing when you're watching movies and videos on it. So it's probably not the best media consumption device, but I think it's probably a good, it's probably good for productivity because you can fit documents on here and all that good stuff. Where did CloudGate go? Let's try to get that CloudGate test done. So let's run that again, and let's see what happens. So GQ sees on his phone, sees the Amazon chat, but not on his tablet. I know they're still working on stuff, so there could be some nuances to the live thing that's not working right at the moment. So here we go. We're running the 3D Mark benchmark again on here. And this is a lower end benchmark test. This is not like the Time Spy that you'll run on a more higher end gaming laptop. We'll definitely try that out in a minute. That one's going to run like postage stamps or a flip book at speed. It's not going to be terribly fast from a frames per second category, or territory, but it will get the job done. And there's a lot of people streaming live right now on Amazon. Wow. There is a lot of live streaming going on. Now, what's cool about the way the Amazon live stream thing works is that as people are shopping, so for example, this is like one of the deals of the day. So if somebody goes to the Acer Spin 5 product page, they will see this running on the bottom. So I'm getting a lot of Amazon customers coming through saying, hey, is this a good deal? And I think it is a good deal. And why I think it's a good deal, the speakers are not a good deal. But beyond that, the fact that you are getting the i7 with the faster graphics performance, so this is actually good for Intel graphics, what we're seeing in this benchmark right now. 16 gigs of RAM is good. So the i7 is good. It's got Wi-Fi 6. It's got 2 Thunderbolt ports. All that stuff is good. So I think this is a pretty good value, all things considered. And what's cool about how this Amazon thing works, so if you are on the product page, this is why I love this Amazon stuff. So this is why it fits very well with what I do. So here we are browsing the computer, right? Here it is. And then right here is our live stream running right next to it. Isn't that cool? And so you could click on this and then go and ask me questions, which some people have already done. So for example, somebody is asking at this moment about the stylus and wanting to see how that works. So we're going to try that out in a second, and we'll see how it works. I haven't done much with the stylus in Word, but there are built-in applications that work with it. So we will try that out here in a second. I just want to record the benchmark results that we got on the laptop here. So the test did run successfully this time. We got a score of 13,862. And what I'm curious about is how this compares to some of the other laptops running with the same chip that we looked at previously. So let me pull up my benchmark here, and then we'll get into the stylus real quick. Now, what's neat about the stylus, by the way, it also comes with the stylus, which I think is a good value add, is that it charges from the laptop and it stores itself inside, so you don't have to worry about losing it. And another thing that I'm noticing about the stylus is that the button is higher up, because I'm always pushing the button by accident when I'm writing, so that's kind of nice to see. Yes, you don't have to get those like quadruple A batteries for this, and when it's garaged in its little holder here, it will charge up. And it just kind of fits in nicely on the side of the case. All right, so let me do the CloudGate here real quick and record the gas says, try it below 20% battery life later. His stalls until a charger is plugged in. Yeah, I bet you that it's managing power, and so you might be able to tweak the power settings on that, because they will adjust their performance as the battery winds down. Okay, so this is the Acer Spin 5, and we have the i7. This actually, the score on this is almost identical to what we got out of the XPS 13. Here, I'll pull the screen up for you so you can see what I'm typing in. So this is the same chip as the Dell XPS 13. And this is one of those things I was talking about. The score is a little bit lower, but I think we're in the margin of error because the frames per second graphically are, again, just right on the margins here. They're pretty close. And the physics test, which is the CPU performance, is 24.67. So remember what I was saying about thin and light versus heavier and bulkier? This is a good example of that. So the Dell XPS 13, an excellent laptop, like a really excellent laptop, costs more. I think it probably is, you can get so you can probably buy 2 or 3 of these for what one of those Dells costs. And you can see here it's right on the money. So, you know, is it as pretty? No. But it performs the same because it's got the same engine inside. And that's kind of the difference with these. So there you go. All right, so let's take a look at the stylus. I know a lot of people were asking about that. I'm just going to disconnect the mouse and get a little organized here. Now, one of the things that Windows has on it, let me do the overhead view here. And I'll see if I can keep my drive connected as we flip around. And when you have a square display like this, you can go either way with it, right? So you can go flat, which is what we're going to do here. Or you could go not flat. So let me go, let's turn the brightness up slightly here. And the pen garages itself on the side here, so I can pull it out. And it is a little harder to get the pen out when the screen is over it. So you got to kind of lift the screen up briefly here and then pull it out of the side. So it stores itself right on the side there. Now, there is a bunch of built-in apps now. One that I've been playing with is called Whiteboard. And I'll see if we can try the Microsoft one. But I want to show you how these pens work. And we have to download this real quick. It'll just take a second. And wait for that to install. And this will also take the place of a mouse. So you can use this to pull up your start menu, for example, if you wanted to. And oh, looks like I got to sign in. Come on. Let's see if I can just continue with... All right, bear with me for a second. I got to sign in to the thing. Nothing's easy, you know? Get my keyboard out again. Now, you could just use the on-screen keyboard, but it's easier for me just to type it in. You always want to know what you're doing, right? So we have to get, Microsoft loves their licenses, so we have to get licensed to use Whiteboard, even though it's free. Okay, so we're in. And if you've used an iPad, this app will be very similar to the Notes application, not so much from an organizational standpoint, but from a standpoint of, okay. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Here's like more of this bloatware. Hey, we got all these apps that we've been paid to put in front of you. Would you like to try them out? No, thank you. All right, let's go to the Whiteboard again. So we've got a couple different color pens, and you got a ruler, so you could have a ruler here and then kind of draw a line that'll stay perfectly straight. And you could adjust the ruler's position with your fingers and kind of get it all straightened out. That's pretty cool, right? You have some selection tools. And what's neat about this, I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can get the other camera in on this. Because the way these are active styluses, so this is not just a capacitive sensor that you're dealing with. So as the pen gets close to the display, you see how it detects it? And what I look for is how close to the display does it get detected? Because if I put my wrist down here, you can see things are moving, but watch what happens when the pen gets closer, it stops. So if the pen is detected, it ignores my wrist. So I can put my hand down here and start writing. And if it can detect it at a larger height, you can see it gets it right here. So when I write, I tend to lift my pen up in between the letters. And what I found is that for some of the less than good styluses is that they often like lose track of the pen when it's even just a little bit off the screen. And then it gets back to your wrist and everything gets all messed up. But as you can see here, I'm pretty high, but it's still detecting the presence of the pen, and then I can push down. This is a Wacom tablet, so it's got a little bit more, I think, than your standard setup. They've been doing those things for a while now, so those are pretty good. So let's get rid of that. I did get a question on Amazon from Stress Free Living. They're thinking about a laptop for their emergency go bag. Would this be a good fit? I think this would be. I mean, it might be a little overkill for that. I mean, a Chromebook could do well there too, but I think at the price, if you need like a decently performing computer, then this might work well for that, for sure. No, I think it's good. Like I said, if you're doing a lot of video editing and things where you need, or gaming, having a discrete GPU is better. I would love to see this form factor with one of the new AMD processors, because those really do deliver some decent graphical performance. So that's something to look for. And Mark Dell points out that, I'll take a couple questions here, that the Wacom has 4,096 levels of pressure. And I was just about to demo some pressure there for sure. Turpan Mandel has a question about the value proposition here. He's thinking about a $600 or $700 budget laptop. Is this? Yeah, I think this might be worth it. Today is the sale day, so that's why, normally this is like $1,100, and today it's $899. So I think at this price, it's a very good value with the two Thunderbolt ports. So I like the display. I like the Thunderbolt ports. I don't like the speakers, but I think there's more to like than dislike here. Amazon customer is asking, do you think this would be good for authors? Yeah, I do, and the reason why is the display. And the square display is better for document editing. I don't think I have Word installed on here at the moment. Let me see if I do. So when you have a Word document, and it's going to bug me because I don't have a license, accept the license agreement. No, thank you. What's nice about when you're doing Word on this is that you can fit more of the document on the screen, so it just works better for word processing and writing. So I think that the 3.2 display is better than a 16:9. It just works better. So that's what I typically look for. And then on the pen side here, so yeah, the only complaint, by the way, just getting back to the writing thing, the keys are a little small on these Acers. I've never been a big fan of the Acer keyboards. This one, they've been getting better, but if you are used to a computer with larger keys, this might take a little bit of getting used to. What's worked here for me on this one, and I have to type a little bit more on it, but they do have them adequately spaced, so that helps. But if you're typing a lot, I think the Lenovo keyboards are better. So there's some, a couple shortfalls here with the speaker quality, the key size, but on balance, I think the price on this is right for today. All right, so let's try the pen pressure. So now, I'm just going to do a light touch here. I don't know if this app supports it or not, but you can see it's kind of a light line, right? And then if I push down harder, it's darker. See that? I could do like my Bob Ross voice. What's a Galaxy pen? Ooh, it's like different colors. My daughter would love this pen. Look at this. Does it do? See, it doesn't do like the. So one thing that the iPad does is it detects tilt, and this doesn't appear to detect tilt. So that's something to keep in mind. Todd Daniel asks a great question that is actually very relevant, because I do need to remind everybody of this. Is there a way, if he makes an order, do we get affiliate revenue? Yes. So if you click through the link in the YouTube description, that is an affiliate link, and I am compensated based on sales from that, including the sales of this laptop. And you can get the full disclaimer as to how it, from Amazon down below. Here's a good example of, I guess it's just, this is like based on speed of the pen. There's like a little circle that gets bigger, the eraser on that. Now the pen feels nice on this. So like I said, I think this feels better than some of the other tablets I've looked at. And again, the big reason why I like this is that it's detecting the pen farther away from the screen. And just based on how I write, so let's do a quick thing here. So you can see it picked it up, I can rest my wrist now because now it's picked it up. That's what I often look for before I go too crazy is I make sure that the pen is getting detected first. And this is something that I typically do on my iPad, don't do on my iPad. My iPad is so good at ignoring anything that's not supposed to be recorded on screen. The Windows ones, I often make sure that, okay, am I getting that cursor showing up? And then I put my hand down. Yeah, this works nice. I'm not writing properly. Oops, see, there you go. So you saw what happened there is that I just, my pen got off a little bit and then it started picking up the wrist again. And that's one thing that never happens on the iPad. But here you've got to have that pen like detected. Oops. And the other thing that I do a lot on these pens is there's a button here that undoes stuff or erases. So like if I hold down this button, it becomes an eraser. And sometimes I'm hitting that button by accident because like if the way I'm holding the pen, my thumb is resting on the button. So you may want to like have the pen just like rotated in a way that you don't hit the button by accident. And this happens with all Windows pens. And I think it's just me, and it doesn't do like automatic shape detection here. Little triangle there. And you can lift the pen up and move, kind of do that. So there you go. And for those of you wondering what the price is, there's an Amazon link in the description if you're watching on YouTube, so you can check us out there. And there you go. So let's go and take a look at what I have installed now, and we'll do a few more gaming tests on here. And let me get the, yeah, so I think, it may all be plastic. I thought it was metal, but I think it's all plastic. I may have to adjust that unboxing video now that I think about it. Okay, so I do want to get a few more games captured on here. But you can see now that we've got this up on screen, like you fit more vertically. I mean, granted, Word has a lot of junk that they put on top. But if you're a writer, I think these work better. You can often do like 2-up kind of things as well. And I got to move my licensing thing up here a bit. Hang on a second. Oops. Yeah, so I have to get my account set up on here. And they limit how many accounts you can install it on. It's a whole big to do. But there you go. Display nice and sharp. We're running this at 150% screen scaling, so it looks a little better than the 200% it came in at. And let's get a couple more games playing on here. So it is Windows 10, so you can install Steam and all your favorite things. And let's go back to my library. And let's go back to the games and see what games are on here now. Yeah, so let's get GTA 5 finished up. And what I need to do real quick is go get my game controller that I left upstairs. So I will be right back, and you can all talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I am back. So Oh, Amazon customer has a great question about how does this compare to the Lenovo Flex 5. So I think, and it depends on what your budget is. And let me pull the Flex 5 up real quick. And I reviewed that, and you can see my review on that product page for the Flex 5, so I would definitely suggest you check that out. Let me pull it up here. So you want to make sure you're looking at the AMD version of it. And so this is the one I reviewed. Now the differences here are that you have a 16:9 display, so that's a wider display. So that's going to be better for media watching. But if you look at this one, it's more square, which I think is better for productivity. Graphically, the Ryzen processor is better than what you're seeing here. So if you're playing games, you're going to get a little bit more frames per second out of the Ryzen 5 processor on the Lenovo than you will out of this one. It's a little better for that. But I don't know if this one, I think it did come with a pen, didn't it? Yeah, that Flex 5, I think one of the Flex 5s comes with a pen. I'm not sure if the one they're selling right now does. But that's a tough call, to be honest. I think it's a matter of, honestly, I think it comes down to screen size. I do think the keyboard is better on the Lenovo. So if the keyboard's important to you or game performance, it's probably better. And I think with the 16:9 display, it's better for media consumption. But this one, I think, might be a little better for productivity, even though the keyboard isn't as good. So it's kind of a wishy-washy answer, unfortunately. But you know what I would do is I would check out the review, and it should be on the product page if you go and browse the Flex 5. I would check out the review that I did of it so you can get a good feel for it. I try to cover all the basics as to what you can do with these things. All right, so we're just waiting for one more thing to finish downloading here. And what I might do is pause this and run that TimeSpy benchmark just so we can get that done. And I can take some more questions while we're going with that. So we'll run that real quick. That'll pause the download while we're doing this. Turupon is asking, can you upgrade the RAM? No, you cannot. So this is locked in at 16, at least for the one that we've got here. All right, so we're going to install the TimeSpy benchmark. And again, the fan noise in this is pretty quiet, even when it's under load. So I'm curious to see how it's going to do on the stress test. Now, when you watch this, it's going to look like it's running terribly, and that's because this test is super demanding and is not really. We've started running it on these Intel Iris Plus machines just because we're able to get it to run on the AMDs, and it's a good comparative for people to think about. So that's why we've been doing these tests. But it's going to look terrible, like as far as the performance of the benchmark running. Because this is like this is a test you'd run on a higher end gaming PC. So let's see what happens. But it's cool though. This is this is the second computer I've seen with like one of these square 3x2s. So the last one was an HP Chromebook, a 12-inch Chromebook. And I think that it works for certain applications. And you got to decide whether or not you want a square screen. And again, when this test is done, you'll see what media looks like on it. We'll play another YouTube video. David wants to know, can you upgrade to Windows 10 Pro from 10 Home? Yes, you can. I believe you got to do that with, let's turn the volume down here. I believe you have to do that with Microsoft, but you can do that. Now, what's interesting is that, yeah, so by the way, to finish my answer to David, you can upgrade, but you got to go through the Microsoft store to do that upgrade. But yeah, you could bring it up to Pro. And you might want to do that for people wondering what the differences are. For people that are in an enterprise environment, Pro allows you to connect to your Active Directories and all that good stuff. But for home users, Home is fine. That's why they call it Home. Now, what's interesting is that this benchmark is running at the 3:2 aspect ratio. So I don't know what that's going to do to our score. This part, though, is the demo. So it runs this demo, and the reason why it runs a demo first, one is it looks cool. Like this would be an awesome VR game, wouldn't it? But after that, the demo runs, it's kind of gotten everything warmed up. So if there's throttling going on, you'll pick it up in the benchmark results as opposed to it running cold. So it's kind of like a car. You want to warm it up. So it runs the demo here to kind of warm things up. And again, the frame rate's not spectacular here, but I wouldn't expect it to be. But if we were running this on the regular Intel graphics, it would be running at like a snail's pace. So it's pretty decent. And let this finish up running here. And I'm getting some additional questions in here. And Michael here has a good point. It's a matter of, he's right, it's work versus play. So these displays are better for work because you can fit more on the screen, especially in the vertical. That's the reason why the square ones work better. The 16:9s are wide, like your TV, and you can't fit as much on the screen, especially if you're working on documents. So that's why you go with one of these. And Unknown here points out that 16:10 displays are getting very popular also. And I think that's what Dell's doing on theirs. And for me, like anything where I can get additional vertical height is helpful. And so like my little MacBook here, which is my favorite little computer, this is also kind of a square display. This is not as square as that one is, but I do prefer that, especially for web browsing, doing work, and that sort of thing. And so here's exactly what I'm talking about. So this demo or this test is a 1080p test, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio. So when you're watching movies on this, you're going to have black bars up and down unless you stretch the image out. And so on a 16:9 display, which is what you'll find on a lot of lower cost laptops in this price point, you will not have the bar up and down because the aspect ratio of the video will match the display aspect ratio. But I think what you'll find is that if you are doing a lot of web browsing or working out of a browser for most of your day, you will prefer this because you can, again, fit more vertically. And so there's more things that will be in front of you without having to scroll. And that's the big difference. Bradley Cochran asks, is it configured with 16 gigs of RAM? Yes, this one has 16. And Ion wants to know, does it have expansion slots? Not really. You can swap out the hard drive. So there is an NVMe PCI Express slot in there that you can use, but that's where the hard drive goes into. So that's that. Mark Dell brings up Windows To Go. Yeah, I use that on my Mac still. It works great. And we can get into that later. But yeah, I think this is good. I mean, again, it's not, it can play games. It's got the graphical performance that other Intel-based machines have not had in the past. So the new Iris Plus graphics, I think, are a real improvement. Like I said, this doesn't look like it's running all that great, but it's running a lot better than it would have a year ago on a similarly equipped i7 processor. And when we get the results, we'll see how it stacks up. David's asking if I experienced any eye strain from PWM. I don't believe so. I have not, we've just started playing with this about an hour ago, so I haven't been looking at it long enough to know if I would. Although these days I'm spending most hours of the day under very bright lights, so everything is all out of whack with my eyes these days. I have to probably go get my eyes looked at. I got to get a lot of things looked at. I've been stuck in this house for too long. And for those tuning in, again, I think what is really unique about this machine is the 16:10 display. and you can see how a movie is going to play on it. So if you don't like those letterboxing bars, you're not going to like this. But I've never minded letterbox. I used to watch letterbox movies back when we all had square TVs. I was a Laserdisc guy. And you saw more. It was funny, the first time I bought, I was a kid from the 80s. We watched Star Wars 24/7, right? So the first time I watched Star Wars widescreen, I hadn't seen it in the theater. So the only way I knew Star Wars was from the pan and scan that filled the TV screen up. And when I saw it on Laserdisc for the first time, like as a teenager, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a whole new movie. Like you saw so much more of the movie. Especially Star Wars, it's such a, it's such a universe that they created, a world that they created. You want to have that, you want to see those details in the background that you would miss. John's asking about the thermals. I don't know yet. I can tell you from the benchmarks that this is stacking up with very close to some of the other laptops we've looked at with the same processor. The fan is, this test is like killing everything, right? And the fan is very, very minimal as far as volume or loudness is concerned. So it's not distracting. It's not like those wind tunnels that the gaming laptops are. So that's encouraging from a noise standpoint. But what I don't know is what that means for its ability to not throttle. And so what we'll do, I'm not going to do it now because it takes like 20 minutes to half an hour to do, is I will run this as on that 3D Mark stress test and see how it works. Mark Dell wants to know, does it feel hot? No, not really. It feels a little warm right here, but it's not like burning hot. Although this portion here is definitely, that's feeling pretty hot to me. I'm not like ready to lift my hand up, but that feels pretty darn hot. And we were running this hard too, so that's probably why we're feeling that there. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot of heat like right in here. And I don't know where, I have to start running those. I've been very reluctant to go too far into the weeds on stuff, but maybe we'll start looking at I got one of those thermal cameras for the iPhone, so maybe we'll check that out. Nocturnal wants to know about the power connector. It is a barrel. But you can also use, and it's actually got 2 Thunderbolt ports. That's the other thing I like about this, is that it's got Thunderbolt. So it works with, you can plug it in with a dock, or you can use the barrel connector, one or the other. All right, so let's go to our 3D Mark test results here. And I'll pull this up on screen. You can, by the way, browse this at Lon.TV/benchmarks if you're curious. And this is our Google spreadsheet that has every laptop we have ever tested. I need to just turn these things off here. So if you're curious as to how one laptop stacks up against another, you can pop in here and see that. Sarah and Tyler are asking, how does this computer compare to the Asus ZenBook 13? I have unfortunately not looked at the ZenBook 13. So if you can tell me what processor is in that one, I could tell you how this one stacks up. Because what we're seeing so far, and we're going to take another look here on its benchmark. So 834 is the score. And, this is interesting. Okay, so here's where this one's coming in. This is the Acer Spin 5, and it has an i7 1065 G7. So, of interest here, and I'm pretty sure we've tested some of the Intels out here too. This is coming in pretty close to where the Ryzen-based machines we've looked at came in. Not all of them, but close enough. So, so let me type these numbers in real quick, and I'll tell you what we're looking at from a performance standpoint. And we've got 7.7 FPS. Okay, so I want to like help you digest these numbers a little bit. So, if you're looking at this one, you might, and I'm going to highlight just because it's going to screw up my thing again, but I'm going to highlight these anyhow. So we're going to highlight this, and we're going to highlight the Spin 7. And I'm also going to highlight another nice little laptop, which is the HP Envy here. Now, when you're out shopping, and you're likely shopping today on Prime Day, you're seeing this Lenovo IdeaPad Flex 5. Great machine, okay? Widescreen. Now, check out the graphics tests here. They're very close. So 5.87 frames per second versus 4.92. 4.28 versus 4.9. Super close. These get a higher score because the CPU performance is better. And the reason is, if I am not mistaken, that the i7 chip in here, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, this, I believe, is a quad-core processor, but the AMD chips are 6 cores, so you'll get a little bit more performance out of the last test, which is CPU dependent. But if you're in the market for a Ryzen 5 4500U machine, benchmark-wise, this one is close to what you'll get out of the Ryzen one. But you've got the Iris Plus graphics on there. And normally, you're paying a price premium. And actually, you probably still are, even with the sale, for the Intel chip. But this Intel architecture, the Iris Plus, is, on paper, competitive with what you'll get out of the AMD Ryzen world here. So hopefully that helps. Again, not spectacular for gaming under any circumstances. And actually, if we go back to that, let me show you what you would get with a lower-end GPU-based machine. So let me go take a look up here a little bit. Let's pop up, let's see, here's like a 1650 or something, because I know that William in our chat was getting a new one. Yeah, so here's a okay, the C940 from Lenovo, right? It's got that GPU, and you can see here, right, you're doing better because you got the extra graphics horsepower. And that's what the GPU gets you, is a substantial, so look at that, you're looking at like 19 and 17, right? 20 and 18, basically. And if we scroll down here, we're at 4 and 4. So if you had a GPU, it would perform better. If we plugged in and that's the other thing with this one, is that you have the Thunderbolt on it. So you can plug that in and get an external GPU going. So there you go. So yeah, that is that. Audrey in the chat wants to know if you can do some gaming on it. Yeah, we did do we're going to load up a game in a minute here. Oops, I just dropped my game controller. We are going to load up as soon as it's finished downloading. I thought it would downloaded last night and it didn't finish. We're going to download another game here. We're going to boot up Grand Theft Auto 5. We did run Doom, the 2016 version of Doom. And that one, we were doing about 35 frames per second at 1080p. And then when we went down to 720p, we were close to 60 frames per second. Now what I'm going to do next is pair up my game controller. And this is like a game controller that I really love. And in full disclosure, this was sent to the channel free of charge, but I love this controller. I will buy more of these, because I probably will get another one. Why do I like it? It's because it's got a great D-pad. It reminds me, this is the 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus, by the way. It reminds me of the Super Nintendo controller's layout. So you have a great D-pad front and center. It's got great analog thumbsticks. It's all customizable. You got analog triggers here with the shoulder buttons. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. And then they took, so it's funny where they got their design ideas from. So they started with a Super Nintendo controller, and then they added the PlayStation controller handles to it. So it feels like a PlayStation controller down here, but you've got a nice D-pad. And then you could get like a clip for it and hook it up to, let me just add the controller here. You can get a clip for it, put your phone on there, and it's actually really well balanced because of the handles. So it's a great controller. And it works with the PC in 2 different modes. So right now I'm pairing it up in X input mode, which is kind of like the Xbox compatible mode. And then you can also hook it up to the Nintendo Switch, and the motion controls work on it too. So we use this on my Switch. My daughter likes this controller a lot. And then we also can use it here on the PC. It's great. It's great for that. All right. Looks like Grand Theft Auto 5 is ready. So why don't we boot this up? And I run this game on so many different systems that it's always screwed up when we when we go to run it. So bear with me for a minute here as we get that started up. And I've got like another half hour, 45 minutes. And knock, you missed it. We did a whole big test on the, oops, wrong screen, hang on. Go away, go away. I have another screen I want to show. We did a whole big test of the, let me put this back up. I hit the wrong button. Of the stylus a little bit earlier. You can rewind the stream. When we do the full review, you'll have a look at that. But it works pretty well. So Sarah and Tyler, unfortunately, I cannot compare this to the ZenBook, just to finish your question, because I don't have it, so I can't review it. And I'd have to see exactly what the configuration was on the ZenBook 13. I don't know if that one's on sale today or not, but I could look at it real quick, and let's take a look. So the ZenBook 13 from Asus. Okay, so that's a cool looking computer. Here, I'll pull it up on screen so you all can see it. So a couple things right out of the gate. If this is the one you're looking at, you are not going to have the same graphics performance that you're going to see here in a second because it doesn't have the Iris Plus graphics. This is the 8th generation i7, not the 10th generation with G7 that we have here. RAM and storage are good. The keypad here is pretty cool. What I would suggest if you were buying this one is to get the one with the GPU, and that'll get you close to where some of the AMD stuff is now. So the MX250, it's not a great GPU, but that's the one I would get versus the one I just clicked on. Audrey wants to know, would this be good for Adobe software? It would be good provided you're not doing anything terribly strenuous from a graphical standpoint. So if if you're doing Premiere and you're doing a lot of overlays with After Effects, then it's probably not something I would recommend. But if you're doing basic Photoshop, basic video editing, the G7 Iris graphics will be fine for that. But once you get into more professional work, this is probably not going to cut it. You need something with a GPU. And Peter has some points here. He owns one. A little concerned with the screen flex in tablet mode. But he loves the performance, and he says the hinges. So I'd like to know what kind of hinge problems you're having. So, I don't keep these long enough to see when the hinge problems develop. So it'd be good to hear some feedback on that if you don't mind sharing. So Knock wants to know also, is this good for drawing? I think it's good. Yeah, it's got the Wacom technology in there. And what I really liked about when we did the stylus test a little bit earlier is that when you get the stylus close to the screen, it detects it a lot further away from the screen than I've seen some other ones do. So that's been pretty helpful. David in the Amazon chat says, I'm trying to decide between this laptop and the Lenovo X13 Yoga, similarly spec'd. They're both generous with ports. Again, it's a matter of I think, a couple of things. Let me look at the Lenovo. I think I reviewed the X13 Yoga. Let me check it real quick and see. I'm not sure they sell that one. There's the are you looking at the ThinkPad X13? Must be. So if you're looking at the Lenovo X13, and this may not be the same one you're looking at that I'm going to put up on screen, but you want to make sure that the processor, so like this is not the processor you want, because if it doesn't have the G7, you're not getting the graphics performance that we're demoing on this one. I'm pretty sure they offer one with that. If you can find one with the AMD 45 whatever U processor, then that would be a good choice. But you got to be really careful on the graphics side, because if you are doing work that involves graphics that would use a GPU, the G7 with the Iris Plus here is the better choice. But I don't know if there is a Lenovo official seller on Amazon of the X13. I'm just looking through some of the listings here. But everyone I'm seeing does not have the G7 graphics. So that's where I think this one's a little better. Here's what I will say, though, is that the ThinkPad keyboards, I love the ThinkPad keyboards. And I don't love this keyboard because these keys are a little smaller. You know, it's not, the Lenovo keyboards are, I would say, like, if I had to rate keyboards, Lenovo would be, I look at a lot of Lenovos, and the keyboards are very consistent from one to the other. So I love the Lenovo keyboards. Actually, I have a ThinkPad right here. Let me show you. Actually, I have two Lenovos right here. Perfect. So this one we're reviewing a little later this week. This is a, this actually is a nice little ride here. This is the IdeaPad Slim 7. And this one's like all metal. It costs a little bit less than this one. It has a GPU. It's got the MX350 on it. So it'll perform in the ballpark of this, maybe a little bit better. Actually, it does a little bit better on some of the games because of the GPU. But you see the keyboard? The keys are bigger. They're just nicer keys. And so Lenovo's got two different keyboards. This is their Yoga and IdeaPad keyboards. And then when you get into the ThinkPad keyboards are even better. And the ThinkPad just carries a premium price because this is like they bought this from IBM. So back in the 90s, these were like the Mercedes-Benz of laptops, and they kind of still are to some degree. But you get these, and the keys look similar, but look at the travel on this. Like the keys, there's like 12 feet of depth to the keys on this. Best keyboards in the world. And they still keep, so they have a trackpad, but they have a little nub here that you can move around also. So, you know, stack up those two keyboards versus this one. The Lenovo's are just better on the keyboards. But Lenovo doesn't make a square screen, a 3.2. And so that might be something to look at. Because typically, as you can see, like this one, widescreen. The one I just showed you, 1080p, also widescreen. So there's some productivity reasons why you might want to go with the other one. But what I'm really mindful of is, you know, I think for most consumers, you know, if you're a business customer just using spreadsheets and stuff, then you don't need the graphics, right? The regular U processor, fine. But consumers do graphics. They do photos, they do games, they do whatever. And I think if you are in that zone where you're jumping from word processing to photo editing to video editing, you know, you want a little bit of graphical oomph to it. And the Iris Plus gives you some oomph. The MX350, 250 GPUs give you some oomph in a small package. And the AMD certainly does as well. Not up to gaming level, but I really have a hard time recommending computers that don't have the G5 or G7 graphics right now, if they have Intel. And a lot of times you can find a lower cost AMD device that will perform, you know, similarly to those. So it's a good time, actually, because for a long time, you could not get a computer with decent graphics performance in this form factor. There was like one or two that had the GPU with lousy battery life as a result. But now I think we're getting to a good place. And Intel stepped it up. AMD stepped it up. They are, you know, it's good. Competition has kind of injected some energy into the industry. Because there was a period of time where Intel was updating the processors, but you weren't seeing performance bumps, especially on the graphics side, for quite a while. And now we're seeing that again. So that's what's been fun to follow here. And we're just waiting for the game to load up here. I don't know what it's doing. It downloaded already, but it looks like it's downloading some more stuff. I wonder if I should like reattach my Ethernet dongle. Maybe that'll speed it up. Let's do that. So I'm on Wi-Fi, and I have a 2 gigabit connection now at the house. And I'm sure a lot of you watching are sick of hearing me talk about this. But I've discovered that to take advantage, I knew this already, but to take advantage of my connection, I really need to plug everything in. And so upstairs now, I've got to run some more cabling around. So I have 2 gigabits upstream, and that's, you know, I upload a lot of videos. So I have this cable running to a 2.5 gigabit switch, like all the way across my living room right now to the kitchen. I got to have somebody come in and install some stuff properly there. So. Yeah, I'm getting some of the same questions, but I'll keep answering because we're just waiting here. We used to call this Happy Talk when I was on the student TV station in college. Good for gaming? It's okay for gaming. Better than it would have been before. In other words, before they upped the graphics potential here. And we'll load up GTA 5 here in a second as soon as the remainder of this thing downloads here. And so what happens with Steam, because Steam is decompressing things as it downloads, so I could be pulling 100 megabytes per second off of this connection right now, but it's kind of hitting its max at 65 megs because of the CPU. So on my gaming machine upstairs, I've got like the octa-core i9 or whatever. I'm able to pull a gigabit downstream from Steam. Not on this one, though. Dominate Uday has a great question for streaming games. You know what the best thing about streaming games is that you don't need anything all that powerful. So, you know, honestly, any laptop you find that's new today will do very well with game streaming, even Chromebooks, provided you have the right compatibility for the service that you're running. So we looked at Microsoft's new cloud streaming thing, so that worked fine on a Chromebook. I found for Chromebooks the best in-home streaming experience right now is Rainway, because they have a web-based, browser-based streaming app that works nicely. Stadia, believe it or not, works great on Chromebooks, of course, because it's Google's own product. But yeah, I stream on everything. So yeah, that's the one cool thing about game streaming. The big thing with game streaming, just like I was talking about with this download here, is you need a very solid network connection. And Wi-Fi is often not great for game streaming because it's highly prone to saturation. And it's a network technology that works great, except when you've got a lot of people on it. And what happens is, so when you're plugged into an Ethernet switch, even on a cheap router, they call it a switch. And the reason they call it a switch is that even though it's not physically switching things, everyone gets their own allocation of bandwidth. So let's say I am sending a file from this computer to my computer over there, and we're both plugged into a unique port on the switch. The data transfer is between this computer and that computer, but other people on the network can still send data to each other at the same speed, if that makes sense, because we're not colliding. When you're on the same Wi-Fi access point, everyone is sharing the bandwidth. So if you have 12 people connected to the access point, if I'm transmitting and you're transmitting at the same time, we have something called a collision, right? And they have technologies that try to mitigate that. You've got time division, multiple, I don't know what they use, but you know, they try to divide up time so everybody can share the connection appropriately, but it's never ideal. So if you're on Ethernet connected to your router, you're going to do much better. Yes, you're sharing the internet connection, but the router can actually shape the traffic and make sure you can actually put your computer at a higher priority to get that stream working better. And so you'll find that when nobody's home, you do much better with your streaming, right? And then when everybody shows up and starts using it, so my kids are on Netflix all the time, right? So I put my kids on the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi so that my 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi is free and clear. Okay, we still have one more thing to install here. This game has gotten more complex. It's been out for, what, 5 or 6 years now? But it gets more and more complex. There's separate launchers that have to come up. It's crazy. So we're almost there. And then I got to run in about 25, 30 minutes here because I have to go pick my daughter up from school. Okay, so we're going to run the launcher here. And hopefully we can try out GTA 5 on here. And Mark Dell remembers token ring networks. So you couldn't transmit unless you had the token because you all had to share the same wire. Interestingly, your cable connection, your cell phone, they all use some degree of time division. So on my prior cable connection before I went fiber, there was a time division, it's called ATDMA, time division multiple access. So there was a cycle and everybody's synced up. So I would get, X amount of time to transmit my data upstream, and then my transmission would have to end, and then the next neighbor would get their turn, and that's how the data gets transmitted. It happens so quickly that you don't notice that you're getting paused, right? My new connection is what they call Metro Ethernet, so it goes right into the Comcast data center. Now, a lot of residential fiber connections actually work the same as your cable connection does, except you're using wires with optics as opposed to radio signals on a cable, right? Or electromagnetic spectrum on a cable. Although I suppose visible light is on the electromagnetic spectrum, but you get what I mean. What happens with the coax cable, because it's prone to interference, is that what I was having here was that I was at the end of the node. So there was a bunch of other customers and amplifiers along the way, and the signal kind of degrades back and forth. So there would be some interference on the wire, and it would screw up that synchronization for the time division upstream, and that's when my streams would go out of whack. So the fiber technology is not prone to interference the same way the coax is, so you get ultimately a more reliable connection even on a shared fiber connection. And I've learned a lot about fiber optics, quite a bit. Got a question here from Doug. What is the best 4K monitor on sale? You know, I haven't checked the 4K monitors. I have this LG. I don't know if it's on sale or not, but it doesn't cost all that much. It's actually right on the floor over here because everything is always on the floor in this place. This is the LG that I have. It is the 24UD58-B. I'll just show you right here. It's hard to see it. This is a low-cost 4K. I think I bought this a couple of years ago for like $250 or less. Again, the 24UD58. Look it up and see if it's on sale because it's not an HDR display, but I often need like a quick and dirty 4K for demoing products and stuff, and that one's been working great. And I've been very happy. I have a fancier LG 4K and HDR one on my iMac over there where I edit some of my videos. Great monitor. Works great with the Mac. So that one works pretty well. Blade says there's a lot of good Prime Day deals on monitors. I should look that up, actually. Let's take a look. So you can go on, if you go on Amazon today, you can actually search on Prime Day. So let's see what we've got for 4K LG stuff. Oh, wow. Yeah, there are some good deals. Honestly, like, I haven't played around with a lot of other monitors, but I've been very happy. Here, I'll zoom in here a little bit here. I've been very happy with my LG 4K displays. And I think I have this one. Do I have this one? No, this one. This is the one I have right here. I'm very happy with this one. I reviewed it also. But the prices have come down on these tremendously because mine was a lot more expensive than that. So this is a good deal right here. If you're playing games, you might want to get like a dedicated gaming monitor. But you can put these into game mode to reduce the input lag. So that's probably worth checking out. But I really like those LGs. Samsung makes good stuff too, but the LGs, I just had good luck with those. All right, let's go and adjust some settings. Like I said, the settings on this game always gets out of whack on here. And again, we're going to turn everything way down because it's just not going to run very well. So we're going to go to 1080p. We're going to start there, and then we'll try to get the aspect ratio going. Because I like to do like an apples to apples kind of look at this. Can this run GTA 5 at 1080p? Gabriel's asking about Minecraft. Yeah, this one will be fine for Minecraft. So Minecraft isn't all that demanding. You know, the Windows 10 version will run a little better than the Java one will. But by and large, it's okay for Minecraft. Again, just like anything, if you had a computer with a discrete GPU, you would do better. And you can buy some gaming laptops with discrete GPUs for less money than this. It just doesn't, it's not as portable. And again, you're going to run into some issues with the aspect ratio of the display. So Mark is playing hooky at work here. I won't tell your boss. You work for Dell? I don't think you work for Dell, but you got the right name to work for Dell. You should definitely be working at Dell. Dominate wants to know, can I suggest something around $1,200? I'm assuming for the monitor. I don't know. I'd have to go and really do some looking. I don't tend to look at a lot of things in that price point, so I just hate making recommendations for things that I haven't tried, because I value the fact that people are buying things based on my recommendation, and I'm very nervous about saying, oh, this is great, if I've never used it before. Okay. All right, now you can see how it's squished here. This is funny. So this is an example of how it's trying to handle the, yeah, it looks weird. So rather than give us a letterbox, it is squishing it. So let's see if we can adjust the aspect ratio here and get it to a better spot. So I don't, aspect ratio, here we go. It's on auto. So we're going to change this to 16:9, and we're going to get the letterboxing. Now I changed it, but it's still, stuck there. How about that? All right, let's, oops. So maybe we'll try to run it at its native resolution. I don't think it's going to do very well. But this will be one of the things that you struggle with on here. So 2256 by 1504. Okay, so now we're at the native resolution of the display. And like I said, some games you're going to struggle trying to get, get everything set up here. All right, so we're going to make sure this is all on normal and low. Yeah, so everything's set pretty good here. Okay, so we're going to back out of this. And we're going to go to story mode. And we'll see how that does. So, oh, Dominate Uday is asking about gaming laptops. Yeah, so I think I like the Acer Nitros are good, as Blade is pointing out here at $1,200. I would also suggest, I have a Lenovo. I have the Legion Y740, which is now the Legion 7. I think the Legion 5s are a good deal. Those are good. Dell has one that's decent also. That's not an Alienware. They have like an actual Dell. So on the gaming laptops, I tend to want to stick with the name brands. Oh, you know what I forgot to do here? I forgot to load up the frames per second counter. So let me pull the Steam one up just because it's easier to get at here. And I'll tell you what I see. And we're running this at the native resolution. And then we'll turn everything down and see what we get. Okay, so we're going to get into, we'll get into a car here. So usually what I do is I blow myself up here because I like to see if the, I like to have a little daylight going on here. You know what's weird? I am getting a ton of input lag on this controller right now. We're going to have to explore that a bit. It's a little better now. Yeah, it's better now. What if it got a little Bluetooth interference? So this is running native resolution at about 30 frames per second. And it just dipped low there, so it's... Let me write this note down real quick. I'm going to just record a few notes here, if you don't mind. So I'm trying to get a little bit done for the channel here while we're in the process of shooting the live stream. Because we're going to have a review of this that will appear here on Amazon, but also on my YouTube channel. Yeah, so we're doing about 25 FPS. Not spectacular, but this is the native resolution. So what we'll do in a second is we'll kind of bring it down to we'll bring it down to 1080p and see if it does a little better there. And this is about what I typically see with this class of laptop, with this G7 processor. Now here's what's funny, is that you could get one of these 10th generation i7s that doesn't have the G7 Iris Plus graphics, and you will not get this performance. This game will not run that well with the same processor without the Iris Plus. So, 25, 30 FPS, playable, but not, not what you would get out of a gaming laptop. So now we're going to go and turn down the graphics here. So we're at native resolution now. So let's go down to 1080p. And we'll say yes. And the problem here is that it's stretching it. So now we're up to about just under 40. We're running about 35 to 40 frames per second. Let me just do one thing real quick here. My controller is like going nuts. So we picked up a little bit of little frame rate here because we've got at a lower resolution now. And this again is about what I see typically on this class of processor. But my concern with this game is the aspect ratio. So some might do the aspect ratio properly, others may not, right? So as far as games. So, it's going to be, again, most games are anticipating a 16:9 display, not a square display. So that's going to impact things a little bit. But, 35, 40 frames per second at 1080p, not bad. All right, cool. So that is that game. And let's go and quit here. And then we'll try out another one. I think I installed the new Star Wars game on here too. Oops. The other problem I run into is that on the Nintendo Switch, when you want to execute something, you hit this button. On the PC, it's this one. It gets me confused every time. Okay, so let's see what else we have installed on here. Maybe I didn't download it. Oh, we did. Okay. Yeah, let me do Rocket League, and then we'll do Squadrons, and then I got to run. So there we go there. Tomorrow says you have it on full screen. Yes, I have it on full screen, but wouldn't it adjust the aspect ratio? Maybe not. That could be why. So I'll have to play around with that a little bit more. Let's see, dominate. Can we use a capture card from one laptop and stream it using another laptop? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let me see what he's saying. Can you use a capture card to capture from one laptop and stream it to another laptop? Well, I think if you plug the HDMI output from, if you plug that's how I do it. If you plug an HDMI output into a capture card, then you could stream it, yes. That you could do. And then Lenovo L340. I don't think I've tried the 340, so I can't comment on that one. I kind of like the mid-range of the Lenovos. But like I said, I haven't tried the 340. And they don't make that anymore. Now it's like the Legion 3, I think is the current version. And Dominique says the HD60 Plus S Plus, yeah, that's the good one to get for the capture card. That's good. Magwell makes a good one. So those all work pretty nicely. All right, this is Rocket League. And again, we're having some wacky display issues here. So let me just log my clip here real quick. And let's go. This is the I'll come back and look at that other thing in a second. Okay, so we do have some varying aspect ratios we can select on here, although most of them are 4:3. I have found with Rocket League that it's the most, it really gives you the hardest time with this stuff, especially when you have a square display like this. And so if we go to windowed, then we could probably select. Yes, he still doesn't give me the option to flip that around. And I don't have an option for the native resolution on here. Now, what I could try, let me try this real quick, because I've noticed this with Rocket League. Rocket League has never been happy about display scaling. So if we turn the scaling off completely, which makes everything super tiny, and then we go back in, we might have some more options. And we'll try that. And by the way, Dominic, one other thing to think about that you can even play with, because I do this also, related to the capturing of video stuff. Let me pull this back up again. I use some network tools called NDI. They are free. And there's an app called Scan Converter, and it allows you to stream the contents of your display over the network. And if you use OBS or vMix or even a TriCaster, it will, hang on a second, I'm talking while I'm trying to concentrate. It will allow you to basically use your network as a network input, as a video input. It works great, because I can grab, I can even grab the output of my camera right now. In fact, right this minute, there's another free capture app here called vMix Desktop Capture, which is what I'm running now. So my little Mac display here, this is all coming over the network. So my Mac is not physically connected to my my broadcast machine right now. It's just sending out its video over the network. Isn't that cool? So that's another thing to look at, because you have that already essentially. All right, so let's go 3 versus 3 standard, and I want to just do, I don't want to go on a multiplayer game. I just want to do a, see, they keep changing these things on me. Oh, I'm joining a game, it looks like. All right, so it looks like we'll do a network game here real quick. So I still never got done with my my video settings. I'm going to be like the worst person to have on your team. Okay, so here we are in the game. I don't know what resolution I'm running at, so let me check the display here for a second. So the video is set to, so it's at 1280 by 1024. Can I go up to the max here? Let's take a look. Yes, okay, so we can do this at 3 by 2. Okay, so this is native resolution, and everything is set to high quality. And our frame rate, yeah, it's playable. It's like 27, 28. But remember, we had to turn off the screen scaling to get this to work properly. But 30 frames per second, native resolution, playable. And then again, if I turn down the graphics settings, I could do better. But for this game, and I've seen this before, you've got to turn off all the scaling to get it to fill the screen up. Yeah, it just dropped to mid-20s right here. So it looks, 25 to 30 it looks like. But these are super high settings, so it's, oh, almost. This game is super addictive, by the way. I think it just went free to play also, so you can get it for free now. I have it on my Switch and the PC. You know what it is? The control is so good. I think that's what makes this game work. It's addictive. It's got great controls. It's a very novel concept. It's like, who would have thought cars and soccer would go together? And you can get these little boost things here, so I can boost. Battling it out here with this dude, and you don't shoot anybody here. It's like you can, if you hit a car going fast enough, you can take him out briefly. You saw that boom earlier. I said I don't play this game enough to know, and I'm trying to be polite here. I have to kind of keep playing because I don't want to like leave the game and leave my teammates high and dry here. This is called Rocket League if you haven't seen this before. And this is like one of those games that becomes like its own esport, right? Like there's huge tournaments and it's. I think a well-crafted game is one in which the physics almost become random in the sense that like the game doesn't follow a predictive path. So you could watch this like a sport, because no two games, you know what I mean? Like the ball is not going to land in the same place every time. It's going to vary. I got hit by somebody who turboed into me. You know what I mean? Like the game is not going to follow the same path every time. Every game is going to be different and unique. And you're only as good as your car, as your ability. So you can't buy your way to a better car. Like you can buy different. Where they make their money is like you can customize your car. You can get a different. I have a little American flag flying on mine right now, but if I wanted to personalize things better, I could do that, right? So, you know, everyone's on an even playing field. And that's what's been amazing about these modern games, is that you can have a game that's completely free. You never have to pay for anything. And you can, you know, pay to customize if you want, and people do, and so many people do. Like look at Fortnite. Like there's so much money they're making on that game, but you never have to pay for it if you don't want to. Right? You don't get any special weapons or whatever. Like your character looks different, and that, you know, that the need to express your individuality in the game, like to customize your player, that has value, enough value that they can make so much off the game that they can just give it away for free. And that's all about the scale of the internet. You couldn't do that back in the Atari days, right? Because you had cost of distribution of the game. You had to, you know, make them. But it's much less expensive to distribute content now. Yeah, I'm not doing very well here. I just don't want to leave the game and just be rude to these players. But you can see when you get really good at it, it's definitely... Audrey wants to know about indie games. Oh, indie games would be fine on this. I think I have... I'll put in Shovel Knight in a second. Let me just get through this match here. It'd be great if I could score a goal eventually. So I'll put myself out here and see if I can... Here we go. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh! I like to say that I got an assist there, but I didn't. Let's try one more time here. Yeah, it runs pretty good. I mean, you know, if I turn the graphics settings down, I could probably double the frame rate. You could run it at a lower resolution. You know, it's all a matter of how pretty you want the game to look. It's beauty versus speed of the frames per second. So on a gaming laptop, you can get both. On one of these computers, you have to choose between the look of the game versus the smoothness of the gameplay. So if you're somebody that likes 60 frames per second, then you can get it here, but you're going to put all your settings way down. And Mark Dell, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. I missed that before you headed out there. Appreciate it. How many people do we have in right now, too? I'll double check the stream settings or stream analytics. Yeah, 274. We're doing okay. Yeah, so we're just basically recording some B-roll and stuff to get things ready for the review when I'm ready to shoot it. Yes, I'm very happy with the pen support on this too. The pen is built in, and it's very good. You know, the latency is low. It worked out well for that. I was very pleased with that. All right, 30 seconds left, and then we'll jump out and try an indie game out. I've got a bunch of indie games that we can look at. We'll look at Shovel Knight. That's the one I like to test out the most. Yeah, my team isn't doing very well, but I'm not very good at this game. So there you go. So I might come back on a little bit later too. I've got a little like quick hit videos to shoot. Tomorrow's here is wondering, does it have a micro SD card slot? Yes, it does. It has a micro SD card slot built in, not a full size one. And we're almost to the end of the level here, and then we can try something different. Okay. Oh, we almost got it in there at the buzzer. But it wouldn't have mattered. Okay, there we go. So let's leave the match. And we're getting some reports in on the new iPhone already. So Jason says the new iPhone is not coming with headphones or a charger. Yep, and they're going to charge you the same. So that, you think about like the marginal reduction in cost on one phone. So what does that headphone cost Apple? I would bet you the charger and the headphone, let's say it costs them $1. So multiply that out across the 15 or 20 million phones they're going to sell, right? And still charge the same. So, it's good for the environment and it's good for their bottom line. They can get another $20 million out of that one reduction. Granted, at their scale, 20 million is nothing. But question from Audrey on the ports. It has Thunderbolt 3 ports, which are these two right here. And of course, they're backwards compatible to USB-C. So I've got a USB-C gigabit Ethernet adapter here, and that's working great. And I love that they have Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt is my preference over just USB-C. So there you go. This laptop, Tan Man, is a 3:2, I believe, aspect ratio. Not quite 4:3, but it's very square. It's actually very similar to the X360 12-inch Chromebook we looked at recently. So it's similar to that. All right, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to do an indie game, because then I've got to get ready to pick my daughter up from school and all that good stuff. And I have to stop somewhere else first before I do that. So we're going to grab Shovel Knight real quick. And we'll try that out, Shovel Knight. By the way, this will not be good for like VR or anything like that. I mean, you're barely able to get games to run at 30 frames per second from a couple of years ago. So just keep your expectations in check there. So we'll do a quick install here. Just gonna throw it on the external. Get that download there. Yeah, so it looks like Apple is in the middle of their presentation now. I'll have to check what's going on there. That's why my traffic went down on YouTube. Everyone's watching the Apple thing. Yeah, so iPhone 12 introduced with flat edge design, 5G, A14 chip, new colors, MagSafe, and more. Oh, MagSafe connector, that's interesting. HomePod Mini. You know what, I want that new ARM Mac. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking forward to. Okay. So we'll let that finish up. It is ready to go. And it's funny too, like here, I'll pull up the image from Mac Rumors here. The phone, it looks like the old iPhone 4, right? They went back to that look. So the iPhone 12 mini and then the iPhone 12. I got to do some research here on this. So it's more of a squared off design. But they went from 3 cameras back to 2 now? Is that, oh, you know why? That's not the Pro, right? I always get this confused. The iPhone Pro is the one that I have, the 12 Pro. So it has 3 cameras still, but does it have anything different that I care about? Because like I upgraded from I had the 10 and I skipped the 10S and I went to the 11 because of the camera. Because the wide angle camera is really, that was a good change for me, but we shall see. Okay, so we're going to jump into Shovel Knight here real quick. It was a request for indie games, so we'll try this out. This game actually runs really well even on like low-end hardware, so this one I expect will do pretty nicely. And again, a game written for 1080p, so, and it's running at 60 frames per second, by the way, so no issues there. But we're getting letterboxing top and bottom because of the fact that this is a game that the developers really targeted at 1080p screens. But yeah, it works fine. 60 frames per second, nice and solid at 1080p. And I would expect that out of this game. This is not a very demanding game. So that's good. But let's see, can we get the display to run at the native aspect ratio? So screen scale resolution. So 2256 by 1504 is what we're running at. But as you see, it's letterboxing it because the game was written for 16 by 9. So this is the kind of, this will actually be a good chunk of B-roll to do here. Let me see if I can get back to, I just want to get a better level that can really illustrate that, that aspect ratio issue. But yeah, to answer Audrey's question, this is fine for for indie games like this. Let's get shoveling, it says. This is actually a really fun game. The music is great, the control is awesome, and it's like it'll remind you of an 8-bit or 16-bit game. It's got like 16-bit graphics with modern frame rates and 8-bit audio. It's a great game. Yeah, it works great. But again, you got the aspect ratio issues there. Okay, so that is Shovel Knight. And we'll add that to my list of files here. Okay, perfect. All right. You're welcome, Audrey. So I've got to get moving here in a minute, folks, because it is almost time to pick my daughter up from school. And I've got to make a stop at the bank first. And my daughter will not want me taking her to the bank. I do the drive-through at the bank. Maybe she wouldn't mind. We'll see. But yeah, so that's it. So yeah, I wanted to do a little stream just to kind of get this thing set up. I've got some more tests to run on it. I have to do a little bit more on battery life and that sort of thing just to get a real good feel for what this is all about. Oh, thank you, Carol, for the super chat. Just want to put that up there and thank you for that. We'll take a look at that. Tomorrow's Sphere wants to know in the full review, will it run Linux? Yes, we'll definitely try Linux out on it. So that is something we will definitely do. So there you go. Let me see if I missed anything else here on the chat. Carol said, yes, the fiber connection has been working great. We've been going for 2 hours plus right now. No problems. It's been awesome. The upload speeds have been great. So very happy with paying more. Tomorrow's Sphere has been enjoying the stream. Yeah, these are always fun for me to do. And what's nice is that they're less aggravating for me to do now. So that's been helpful. Cheese has been a fan of the reviews since the HP Stream 11. And Interactive DNA says I could do 8K. I probably could do 8K. I need to buy new cameras, though. My cameras only do 4K. I'm not sure how good I would look in 8K. We'll have to see how that goes. All right, everybody. I am going to head out for a little bit. I might be back on today. I'm definitely planning to stream again tomorrow because I've got like a bunch of little quick hit things to do. And actually, also, what is this? Chocolate. I wasn't eating chocolate earlier. Also, I've got the Oculus Quest 2 is coming today. So we might be popping back on as I play with that. I've got windows of time here. So we'll see. I plan to just kind of do a whole day of just looking at Prime Day stuff. So that's been on the schedule for today. So yeah, good stuff. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to say goodbye to the Amazon audience. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next run. And for those of you watching on YouTube, be sure to click my Amazon link and head over there and follow me there. It would be great to build up my follower base. And yeah, it's going to do it for now. I will talk to you all very soon. Hopefully you found this helpful. And thanks again for tuning in. Bye-bye.